TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Welcome to another edition of the RF Video Shoot interview series, and it is an absolute pleasure to be joined by one of the true legends of the sport of professional wrestling, Scott Hall. And we always like to ask how you got in the business. So,
I always wanted to be a wrestler since I was a little kid. My father took me and my buddies to a wrestling match when I was like 8 years old, and I was just hooked since then. I'll never forget. I don't remember the guys' names, but it was a loser loses hair match. You know? I still had a piece of the guy's hair, and even at 8 years old, my buddies were going, "Man, that stuff's all fake." So I was, "No, it's not, man. Would you let a guy shave your hair?" And I just was hooked since then, you know. So I've never had a straight job. I worked in strip clubs. I've been a wrestler, you know. It's all I ever wanted to do, and I was really fortunate that, you know, my dream came true.
Wow. Was it true that Barry Windham discovered you?
Well, I was living in Orlando, working in strip clubs there and lifting weights and trying to get big. And I knew that the Florida Championship Wrestling office was in Tampa, but I had no idea where. So I moved to Tampa, and I joined every gym in the area.
Wow.
Just trying to run into some of the boys. And I was in a Publix grocery store in Temple Terrace, a suburb of Tampa, and I ran into Barry Windham. And I'd been buying tickets to go to all the shows. You know, I'd see Barry on Sunday in Orlando, Tuesday in Tampa. I'd go to the tapings Wednesday in the Sportatorium in Tampa. And it was Barry Windham, but I was real shy about it. You know, I didn't want to go up and mark out on the guys, but we're both looking at steaks, and we're going, and I was jacked, you know, I'm 290, you know, and Barry's a really big guy too, and
sure.
I was a huge fan of his, and I remember I said, "Excuse me, Barry Windham." Well, "Yeah, how you doing?" So I'm Scott Hall, and he goes, he said, "What do you do, play ball or something, you know?" Because at that time they had the Tampa Bay Bandits, like the USFL, the Buccaneers, so there's a lot of big jocks around Tampa, the wrestlers, the football players. I said, "No," I said, "Actually, I'm training with Hiro Matsuda." I said, "I'm trying to get in your business." And I'll never forget, he went, "F Hiro Matsuda." he said, all he'll have you doing is Hindu squats around the building. I'll never forget, he said, "You know where the Sportatorium is?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Meet me down at tomorrow at 12. I said, "Okay." So I said, "Sure, Barry Windham's going to come work out with me at the Sportatorium." So I got there at 11 o'clock anyway, early. Mm-hmm. And Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda showed up, and they had me bump them.
Wow.
For 2 hours. And then they had to go make a town that night. But they would Barry would slam Mike, and then he'd say, "Okay, now you do it." And he would watch me and see if I was doing it correctly. I didn't take any bumps. I bumped them.
Wow.
And it was unbelievable. And these are two major superstars, letting some career ender, you know, bump them around. And I don't know, it was just... And from then, I still didn't know that Hiro Matsuda was connected with the office. I had no idea. I was so green. I didn't know anything, you know.
Yeah.
And then, but I guess, you know, the little networking that was going on, I said, "Well, the kid has a good attitude, blah, blah, blah." And it kind of just, for me, the way the wrestling business was is you're on the outside, you're on the outside, you're on the outside. And then when you're in full speed. All of a sudden you're in, we need you in Charlotte tomorrow. You know, Dusty took the book in Charlotte. So I had to move from Tampa to Charlotte like on a moment's notice.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was, for you, what was the hardest thing to pick up in training?
What do you mean the hardest thing?
Was it the psychology, the bumping, the running the ropes?
I remember it's everything, because when you're green, you're just green. And I broke in an era when the television part of the business was becoming real important. It wasn't so, it was right when the Warriors came along, Billy Jack. It was at a time when it wasn't the guys who were good performers and good workers. The guys who looked the part were becoming more popular, you know, because little kids were going, "Well, I think that big muscle guy can beat up that fat guy." Even though the fat guy might be a hell of a worker, the little kid's going, "But I want to buy his doll.
Right.
I want the muscle guy's doll." So the business was changing then. So there was a lot of friction, a lot of heat, because I was kind of getting pushed because I had the look, but I didn't have any of the ability. But Dusty, being a real smart guy, I'll never forget, I was at the Eddie Graham Sports Stadium, sitting way in the back, and they had a little balcony where you could sit up and watch the show where the fans couldn't get near you. And I hadn't had a match yet. I'm just sitting there watching. Dusty's sitting behind me, and he's whispering in my ear. And he's going, and Billy Jack was wrestling Black Bart.
Okay.
And Dusty's talking to me in my ear, and he's going, "Now he's overselling. See, he's overselling the back there. You doing that? No, it's time for him to fight back a little bit. And he's saying all these things, and I don't understand it at all. I don't even get it, but I'm just doing the play like, And what I've realized what happens to me is when guys like Larry Zbyszko sitting in my room now, and Larry helped me a lot when I was in the AWA, and guys like Michael Hayes and Dusty and Barry and different guys who I've crossed paths with in my career, they would tell me things, and I wouldn't understand it at the time. And then you'd be riding down a highway like 2 years later, and you go, oh, now I know what he meant. Now I know what he meant when he said fire. And, and so for me, it was the moves and stuff are easy to pick up.
Yeah.
It's the psychology. Everybody develops their own style at their own rate. But for me, the psychology is the most important thing. And so guys like Curt Hennig and Jake Roberts and stuff like that, Dusty, kind of helped me with that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Sure, absolutely. Now, what do you remember about teaming up with Dan Spivey early in your career?
Well, I think what happened was, the Road Warriors were so red hot, and that was Ole's creation. Ole, out of Georgia Championship Wrestling. So Dusty took, I was big musclehead, Danny was big musclehead. So he threw us together, and we were the American Starship. Yep. I was Coyote, he was Eagle. But you took two guys who'd never had matches and didn't know each other. We didn't know each other. So it was, Danny's a super guy. He's a great athlete. He played ball at Georgia. He played for the Jets. He's a super athlete, super person. But we were different people. He was a little bit older than me. We didn't know each other. And I think really we both wanted to be singles wrestlers. Yeah. If we could have been, but then again, at the same time, had we not had to suddenly move to Charlotte, our careers could have been way different. If Dusty had stayed in Florida and groomed us and built us, and we'd have been his warriors. Yeah. If the Starship would have been groomed and built in Florida, we probably would have been a major success as a tag team because Dusty would have built us and groomed us at his own pace. We went to Charlotte for Crockett Promotions, was a huge territory that was on its butt, and Dusty had to go with talent that was ready to work. We hadn't had a match, and we were too big to do jobs and too green to be put over. So we just kind of sat around. We worked for the Charlotte Orioles. Jim Crockett owned the Charlotte Orioles. So we were on the grounds crew at the baseball park.
Wow.
That's what we did. We sat around in the dugout. It rained one time. We pulled the tarp out.
Wow. And then the two of you went to Kansas City for a little while.
Well, Danny wasn't very happy about that. See, the thing about working in Charlotte was, that was a big territory. And when you did work, you got paid. Because this is, 84, 85. You'd work one match, and we were like opening match. You make $800, $900, $1,000 for opening match. Back then, bro, that's good money. That's good money now. I mean, back then, that was huge money. But we only worked once a month because we were too green to be on the road all the time. They'd slip us in when they could, Yeah. And I had a different feel about the business than Danny. I can't speak for Danny, but in my opinion, I knew what I wanted, and I wanted to be in the ring all the time to learn because I wanted to do this. And so I asked Dusty to send me to Kansas City, where Harley Race and Bob Backlund were running it, because it was a smaller territory, and I felt like, Charlotte was a big territory, nationwide TV, and if you fell on your face, the whole world's going to know it, and you're dead. So I wanted to be someplace where if I fell on my face, just a regional audience is going to see it, because you only get that one chance to make the first impression. Wow. So I wanted to get seasoned to learn how to do interviews and be in gimmick matches and learn how to be a main eventer, even if it was on a really small scale, so that when I ever, God willing, got to the big time, I would have some experience of doing interviews and stuff like that. Because in Charlotte, we never did interviews or anything. We got paid. Yeah. Good money. I was making way less in Kansas City, but I got to do interviews. I got to be in gimmick matches, and Danny wasn't happy with it. I went and stayed there almost a year, and Danny stayed a couple months and went back to Charlotte. Yeah. Yeah, we just did a shoot with him a couple months ago, and he said he hated it there. Yeah, he did. And he let me know. He's a big redneck that you don't want mad at.
What do you remember about Harley Race from that time?
Harley was not working in the Kansas City territory much because, he was big star and there wasn't much money there. Whenever he would work, he would draw, but he was working in Japan, he was working in Charlotte, he was working in Texas, he was going to the bigger territories. The one time I got into a scuffle with Marty Jannetty, and I beat Marty's ass in the locker room. Wow. And I figured, and Marty was a top babyface, And I figured, well, I'm fired now because I just beat the hell out of him. He was asleep on a table, and I beat the hell out of him, and I fight dirty.
Wow.
And I beat his ass. And it was in a Memorial Auditorium in Kansas City, and I was walking under the tunnel back to the heel side. Marty was a babyface, and I was walking back to the heel side because I figured, well, I'm fired now. Screw it. I'll go back to Florida and work back to the strip clubs. I can always get a job doing that.
Yeah. I'm
walking through the thing, and I'm pumped because I just been in a fight. And I'm like, and I'm 290, and I'm young, and I don't have any injuries. And I hear this, hey, Steve. It's Harley. And I turn around and I go, are you talking to me, Harley? Because I figure I'm fired anyway, right? I said, you talking to me, Harley? I said, my name is Scott Hall. I said, I've been here 6 effing months. My name is Scott Hall.
Wow.
He went, calm down, kid. And he comes over there, and Carly, he's so cool. He comes over there, and I damaged my knuckle because I was hitting him just like a wild man. Instead of boxing, I was just wailing. I jammed my knuckle on my little finger. So Harley set my knuckle for me.
Wow.
And then he goes, hey, kid, next time you do that shit, do it after the show. Now the fucking guy can't work. Excuse my language. The effing guy can't work. But that was all he said. I thought I was fired and in trouble. They didn't even care. Hey, go get ready, kid. You're on set.
Huh.
It turned out to be a big angle. They showed Marty all stitched up and did an angle that somebody else jumped him in the locker room because I was low on a totem pole. It couldn't have been me. Mr. Pogo beat him up.
Now, early on when you were a younger guy at that time, did any of the veterans ever try and test you in the ring, or maybe even outside the ring?
No, everybody was pretty cool. I mean, there was I was a big redneck too, so nobody really wanted to test me because I was a pretty salty cat, and when you don't have anything, you don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? Sue me? I got $50 in the bank.
Yeah.
You know, but really. A lot of people helped me. I remember the first time I ever got hit by a folding metal chair was by Bruiser Brody in Kansas City.
Wow.
And it was me and Mr. Pogo against Brody. So Brody comes in, he's in the locker room, and he looks at me, and I'm huge, you know, and he goes, I could have a good singles match with you. What are we having a handicap for?
Yeah.
But I'm going, I don't know, Mr. Brody, you know, I don't have anything to do with the booking. But so we're having our little match, and Brody's over like crazy. Everybody went. He's particularly over in Kansas City.
Yeah. So
we're out fighting on the floor, and blah, 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 and he picks up the chair, and he holds it for a second, I'm just standing there like, huh? And he just waffled me with it. And then later on, he went, hey, kid, you know, turn and give me your back, or, you know, or put your hands up. You know, I'd never been hit with a chair, so I didn't know what to do. But so it's like, go, thank you, Mr. Brody.
Wow.
But nobody ever that I was aware of ever messed with me, you know.
Yeah.
But they might have been doing it, I didn't know it, you know, because I was so green. You know?
Yeah. What was the fight with Marty over?
There was a dude named DJ Peterson.
I remember DJ Peterson.
See, and at that time, too, I had a different look. I had curly brown hair and a mustache. I looked like the cowboy from the Village People. and he kind of looked similar. We were both muscle guys. And what happened was we didn't stay over much there. We drove to town and drove back. But every once in a while, we'd go way out in western Kansas or something, and we would stay in a hotel. And what happened was DJ and Marty were really good buddies. And they stayed in a hotel, and when they checked in, they registered as Scott Hall. So then story has it, they trashed the room. So now the hotel calls the wrestling office, and the wrestling office calls me. And you know, I'm so job scared. You know, I want to be in wrestling. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't even drink back then, brother. I don't do anything wrong. And so, you know, and so they said, well, we kind of have a feeling who it was, but we just want to check with you. And I remember asking Bob Brown, who was the booker, Bulldog Bob Brown.
I remember.
And I said, if I slap him around a little bit, am I going to get fired? And he went, no. So, and I'm such a redneck. When I went to the show that night, I knew I was going to fight. I wore old clothes. I wore my old cowboy boots. I wore a shirt that I didn't mind getting blood on. And I went in there and went right to the Bayface locker room and looked around for him and didn't see him. And then turned around and there he was sleeping on a table, and I just started beating his ass.
Wow.
Because all I could think about was him checking in the hotel going, well, whose name should we put? I just put Scott Hall.
Yeah.
And that just kept, all day long, it just kept eating at me. And because I liked Marty. I thought they liked me, and it hurt my feelings, you know. So I reacted like a big redneck.
Yeah. Now, how did you wind up in the AWA?
I was working in Kansas City, and once a month they would have a big show in St. Louis, and the top stars would come from Minneapolis, Dallas, Charlotte, and underneath card would drive from Kansas City to St. Louis, and we'd be the opening matches. So I was there, and I remember I worked with Rufus R. Jones, put him over right in the middle. I did jobs early on. I didn't care. I knew it was fake from the beginning. Some guys have a problem with that even now. But Blackjack Lanza was there, and he came up to me and said, "Hey kid, are you ready to make a move?" And he was working for Minneapolis. He went, "You ready to make a move?" And I went, "No, I'm not ready." And he went, "Everybody's the shits when they start." And I said, "As long as you feel that way, I'm ready to make a move." So he took me to Winnipeg, and they did TV one night, and the next night was a house show. And in fact, I beat Rick Steiner on TV. I always tease him about that. I beat Rick Steiner on TV in Winnipeg, and the next night I go Broadway, time limit draw with Larry Zbyszko, who I told you earlier,
wow.
Sit in my room. Now Larry's a huge star, and back in the day, we used to play when you're on these old long trips. They used to play this thing called the wrestling name game. Like, you guys are too young. But
no, I played that.
It used to be the thing where, you say, like, the guy would say Lenny Lane, and it'd be LU, and you'd have to go, Larry something or so. And Larry Zbyszko was always my closer, because there's not many guys who started with Z. So I'd have to go, Larry Zbyszko. And then it would be Z to the next guy, and there wasn't many guys, like Z-Man or Zeus, there wasn't many guys.
Yeah. So
I get there, and I'm looking at the lineup at the Winnipeg Arena. Now, I've never been in front of a big crowd before. It's like 15,000 people in Winnipeg Arena. And I look across the thing, and he was the America's champion. And it's Scott Hall versus Larry Zbyszko. I go, oh my God. I said, at least I'm going to do a job for somebody that I've heard of.
Yeah.
So then they tell us that they're protecting me because Verne at that time was in Alaska fishing. So I wasn't officially hired, but Lanza was pretty sure I was going to be hired. So they were taking care of me. They were putting me over on TV. I never won a match on TV.
Yeah.
Now I'm going Broadway with Zbyszko. And I tell the story. Me and Larry were just laughing about it. Larry took such good care of me because I was so nervous. And he didn't have to. He could have buried me if he'd wanted to, and I wouldn't even know it. Yeah. He made me look like $1 million. And the thing he did at the end that I think is such a detailed thing that nobody has ever done before or since that I know of, like when you're going Broadway and the ring announcer's counting 10, 9, and the referee, everybody's working together, and they go, 3, 2, and ding, 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 ding. And every other time I've seen it or I was involved in it prior to that, the babyface always goes like, did I win? Or like, what happened? Zbyszko's laying there like this. He calls the whole comeback to me. He goes, okay, grab me by the hair. Not too hard. Okay, pull your hand back. Look at the people, not too long. Okay, hit me, not too hard. He calls the whole thing to me. He goes, okay, give me that bulldog thing. Like Lanza gave me bulldog because that was his finish.
Okay.
So I do the bulldog. He goes, okay, do that bulldog thing. Boom. They're counting down 3, 2, 1. Something like that. And Zbyszko's laying there like this, and he goes, now jump up like you won. And that was such detail that I'd never seen anybody do before or since. And I jumped up like, yes, and the people exploded.
Wow.
Because they thought this dude from nowhere beat Larry Zbyszko because he had good heat, and it was just something that I never forgot. And I feel really blessed that as my career went, years later than when I got to be in the WCW and then the NWO and Larry was an announcer, I got to, like at commercial breaks, I used to shoot angles with Zbyszko. Like we'd get a commercial break and I'd throw my toothpick at Zbyszko, and we'd square off and he's over.
Yeah.
And I used to tell Bischoff, this guy's a star, man. We can make money with him. And I ended up doing it. He got a few pay-per-views out of the deal. He got some. So. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I know I'm jumping way ahead, but did something like that, did you kind of base that when the kid came into the WWF and you kind of did something similar for him?
Well, what happened then actually was, when you're a heel and you work in big markets, Philly, Chicago, LA, New York, there's always heel fans, and so after a certain number of years, they just started liking Razor. Yeah. So Vince told me that, the fans are starting to turn you. So he said, we're going to have to address it. So the first thing they did was in Madison Square Garden, Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental champ. He was a heel, Razor was a heel, and we traveled together. We hung out together. We were great friends. And they put us two heels against each other in the garden just to see what the crowd would do.
Wow.
And it was kind of cool because we didn't know what to expect because we'd both been major heels in the building before.
Yeah.
And now we're both in there with each other. And Shawn is super talented and a pretty boy. I kind of thought I'd be the heel. I thought for sure that they were going to like him.
Yeah.
But they didn't. But it was even at the beginning. And then Shawn has just got that natural cockiness. Now, I'm pretty cocky too, but I just assumed that because I was bigger and like rougher looking, I'd be the heel. It didn't work out that way. And all of a sudden, because we discussed it, like they started going, Razor, Razor. And I remember Shawn telling me in the ring that, like, because Curt Hennig taught me, you never go to the people. Like, if they're you don't go to them like cheerlead, you just glance, like, so Shawn said, they started coming with me, and so Shawn said, look like you're surprised. So I went like, and then they went louder. I went like, me? And they went, right. And I started going, so then I went, well, all right,
Yeah.
And it was just, that was the first test. And what they did with the kid was, Vince called me in and said, listen, okay, we have to turn you babyface. He said, but I don't want to do the same old thing where you run in and save somebody. He said, we got this kid weighs 120 pounds soaking wet. Now I had seen Kid on Global Wrestling out of Texas, and I went, Lightning Kid? And he goes, you know him? And I went, no. But I remember seeing Kid do this thing on TV, because down there they had a 20 count on the outside.
I remember.
So kids, I remember watching TV, and here's this kid, he looks like a stick figure. He looks like he's 11, but he can go. And he's a natural heel. He's on the outside, and they got this old referee, the old dude. So the guy's going 7, 8. So Kid just lays down on the floor like this, and the guy, like a prick, going, go ahead, old man. Made the guy count 18, 19. Then he rolled in, and it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. It was like I was talking about with Larry with the Broadway. It was a detail that you go, wow, that guy's really smart, because that's good shit right there.
Yeah.
What a little prick. So it registered in my mind. So Vince said, well, what we're going to do is going to have this guy beat you on Raw. And we were the first angle on Raw, me and Kid. And he said, and have this guy beat you. And he told me this 6 months before we did it. He said, we're going to have him beat you. Then you're going to offer him, each week you offer him more money till we get up to about 10 grand. Then the kid's going to steal the money. He's not going to beat you again, but he's going to steal the money and get away, run away. He said, then what we'll do is every time a heel does an interview about his opponent, he's going to close by going, speaking of losers, that Razor Ramon, what a loser. Man, that kid beat him, then he stole his money. And he said, that's going to work. He said, that's going to turn the people where they'll go, well, we don't like you, Razor, but you don't have to take that. And then he went, I think you'll work with Ted DiBiase at SummerSlam, just beat him with your finish. And that's what we did.
Wow.
It was Teddy's last match in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of the best things I ever had in my career, because it was so cool that, because no one's ever been turned that way before. You always run in and save like all of a sudden the people just started going like they didn't like me, but the other heels started making, like, burying me, and their fans kind of went, well, we don't like you, Razor, but man, he's talking smack about you. Yeah. And so it was just really a cool thing to be a part of. Vince is a smart guy,
Awesome. Now, back to the AWA, what do you remember about meeting Verne for the first time?
The main thing I learned about Verne, Verne was a really cool cat, and he was kind of eccentric, and even though he was balding at the time when I met him, Verne was a really charismatic, handsome dude. And the thing I learned from Verne mostly was how to work a room. Because when I went there, I was his guy. They were grooming me to be their top babyface. And I remember traveling to these different functions, because Verne was real big about going to different events and golf tournaments and charity dinners and all these kind of things, and taking one of his boys with him, his figurehead with him. So I was in that role a lot of the time, and it was a real honor to be. But I can remember riding in a car with Verne, and he would be in a bad mood, but But when he hit that door, hey, how you doing? Hey, you know, slapping guy. And he taught me that whenever you go any place, it's really important to Verne that the wrestler be the one who's remembered. Because we go to banquets and stuff, there'd be football players, there'd be baseball players, there'd be he wanted people to walk out there remembering the wrestler. God, that wrestler was funny. That wrestler was big. He was tough. He was, So I learned like the importance of no matter how you feel when you're working, like a lot of my buddies always give me stuff. They go, man, you making all that money. I saw you on TV. You wrestled for 12 minutes. and I go, yeah, okay, you're right. But see, what I learned from Verne is you're working the minute you leave your house. Because you walk outside your house, the mailman might walk by and go, hey, Razor. Or, you're in the airport, people, hey, Razor, hey, Scott Hall, hey, NWO, woo, Wolfpack, whatever. And you got to go, hey, what's up? You're working the whole time. And I learned that from Verne, the importance of working. People don't want to see Scott Hall, the father, the regular dude. They want to see Scott Hall, the wrestler. They want to see Razor, the bad guy. When they're in the airport, or wherever you run into them, they want to see the guy they see on TV.
Yeah.
So you always have to be kind of on. That's what I learned from Verne. He's a smart dude.
Wow.
And another thing too, they wanted to make me their champ, but it was too cold for me up there. I remember I went to Verne and said, man, this is your hometown. It ain't mine. I said, don't put your belt on me. I don't want it.
Wow.
I said, I'm going back to Florida. I said, I said, I'm going to go work for Florida Championship Wrestling because all I really want. See, another thing I felt about the AWA is they were really fascinated by gimmicks, but they never knew how to create one.
That's a great point.
They had Mad Dog with Shawn, and they had Jesse and guys like that, and Hulk, who all came in with their own gimmicks. Everybody else was like Steve-O.
Yeah.
I was Big Scott Hall. That was their gimmick for me. Everybody went by their real name. Nobody was a gimmick. I wanted to learn. I grew up watching Florida wrestling. I wanted to be Florida style, with the cool gimmicks and the storylines and the angles and the gimmick matches. And it was just kind of vanilla wrestling in AWA. It was real successful in nationwide, worldwide TV, but it was real black and white. And that wasn't what I was after for my career. And I remember talking to Verne, and I went in and gave my notice. And he couldn't believe it. Because nobody left Verne, he couldn't believe it. I said, Verne, man, this is your hometown. It's not mine. It's too cold here. I said, I can make $2,000 a week selling suntan lotion on Cocoa Beach.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to live there anymore. And he goes, I can make you a star. I said, I don't need to be on TV to feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And I said, Verne, I'm in this for the money. I'm in it for the money. He goes, the money comes later. I said, my bills come every month, right on time. And then when I said that to him, all of a sudden his expression kind of changed. And we started talking like man to man instead of employer to employee.
Sure.
And he went like, I said, how's it feel, Verne? You made it, man. You're a success. He goes, I'm rich. And I said, I know. I want to be rich too. I said, how's it feel? He goes, it feels great. and we started, and the whole demeanor, everything changed then. He started talking to me about, I had this and, I did. And we just started talking like a couple of buddies would talk.
Yeah.
And I said, Verne, I thank you for everything you've done for me. Don't put your belt on me. I'm not staying here. I don't want your belt. Go ahead and put it on whoever you're going to put it on. I don't want it. Thank you for everything you've done. I'm giving you my notice. I'll do jobs on the way out. No problem. I'm going to Florida. Thank you for everything. And a lot of people thought that was a stupid move I made. If I'd have stayed, I'd have been AWA champion. I still would have been the cowboy look and all that.
Yeah.
In my career, who knows what might have happened. It might have been great. It might have been whatever. You can't look back. But I didn't care. See, there's two times I found, for me, when you have power is when you don't have anything or when you have a lot. Back then, I didn't care. I had a little bit of money in the bank. I had a Corvette, I'm single. I got no responsibilities. I don't care. I got power because I don't care.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, no, thanks. Yeah, you got AWA world champ. No, thanks. I'd rather be Florida state champ.
Wow.
But they were really good to me. When I first moved there, he invited me to his house for Thanksgiving dinner. Verne and his family, they're good people. They treated me really good. It just wasn't the right fit for me.
Yeah. A lot of the guys that worked in AWA around that time, they talk about Curt Hennig being a river in the middle of matches and things like that. Do you remember anything like that?
The thing that I always remember about Curt, God rest his soul, is that when I came to Minneapolis, they put, because I was green as hell, but I looked the part. And now I'm on nationwide TV.
Yeah.
And they put Curt and I together as a tag team, and then we ended up being tag team champs and stuff. And they put Curt with me, and Curt came and picked me up in my apartment, drove me to every town.
Wow.
Talked to me, because I didn't know how to drive on that kind of weather, you know?
Yeah.
And he talked to me about the business all the time and about psychology and how to act in a locker room and how to act around it, you know? Taught me everything that his view of the business, which became my view. And Curt had an influence on a lot of guys. Shawn Michaels, me, a kid, like, about the way to do business. Like, if you're going to put a guy over, man, you put him over.
Yeah.
You know, if you're losing, you don't, it's 1, 2, you don't kick out of 3, you lay there for 50. If the guy's good enough to beat you, man, you make him look like $10 million. Like, Curt was the first guy to take bumps and get a reaction from his bumps. You know, instead of just taking a bump, Curt did do whirly twirls and stuff. And Curt was, he was around Mr. Fuji early when he was in the WWF early, and then he came back to me, you know, the AWA. So he was around Mr. Fuji, and Mr. Fuji's legendary Master River.
Yes.
So Curt was what I learned from Curt was you have to have fun in this business because it's your life. You know, this is our life. We're on the road, we're in hotels, this is our life. And Flair taught me that too. So you can either go, we're going to Boise. Or you can go, we're going to Boise, woo! You know, let's go, whoa, we're going to Sioux Falls, yeah! They love me in Sioux Falls. You know, it's your attitude. Because some guys are jacked, or you can be the guys laughing and telling, woo, you know?
Yeah.
So being around Curt, he was always upbeat and happy, so that helped me a lot. And then having him as a partner, Curt did all the work. Curt did everything. He tagged me, I'd make the comeback, I'd pin the guy.
Yeah.
It got to the point where it was so ridiculous that uneducated fans would go, hey, Hall, get rid of Hennig, man, get a new partner, he's holding you down. and I'd be thinking, you got it wrong, man, he's doing everything. I'd be lost without him, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, and the thing that always stuck in my mind is, this is before the days of guaranteed money, you know? You got paid what you got paid. And so, as far as Curt knew, we were both baby faces. So basically, we're competing for the same job. And he went out of his way to help me. You know, he was driving me around. He was teaching me stuff. He always featured me in matches. He always started the match. Then when he would go to tag me in, he'd go, "You want me to tag the big man?" and I thought that's the right thing to do. That's why, anytime Kev and I ever have a match, I always start.
Yeah.
Unless Kid's with us, then Kid starts. Then I start, then Kev, because you always feature the big guy. Because it's just it's the right thing to do, I think, because that's the way Curt taught me.
Now that you bring it up, I remember every time when you would tag in Kevin Nash.
It'd be like, you want that, you know, or we do the spot where I would put the guy over like crazy and spit on him. I did it to Stevie Ray at Harlem Heat. Me and Kev are working with them, Halloween Havoc, and they're going to drop the straps to us. So me and Booker start, we have similar styles, we do some stuff, stag Stevie in, I let Stevie toss me around, boom, 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 do his big man stuff, and then I go, and spit on him. And I don't tell him I'm going to do it because I'm afraid he'll beat me up. So I spit on him, and Stevie is a big, bad, proud black man. And people don't spit on Stevie Ray. And he went. And the people went, whoa. And then I went. And reached back and tagged Kev. Yeah. And then I go, now you're going to get it. So Kev comes in, does some spots, and puts Stevie Ray over. And I've done that spot with a lot of guys. Stevie Ray was just so smart that after he boom, 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 bounced Kev around, he went over to me and went, I was standing on the apron. I didn't know it was coming. Wow. He spit on me. Then I went, like I tried to come in, tripped on the rope, did the Flair bump and a bull. And it was so cool. But I apologized to him afterwards. I said, Stevie, I just popped in my head, although I had planned it. Yeah. And I said, Stevie, I said, please, it was just a work. I would never spit on you in real life. I respect you, because I don't want you to kill me. But,
what are your memories of the matches you and Curt had with the Long Riders?
Scott Irwin was a superhuman being, God rest his soul. He was a businessman, and he knew that his job was to make me look good. brother Bill and I just didn't get along. I can't speak. Well, I'm gonna say what I think. I think Bill was one of those guys who felt like, who's this jabroni? He hasn't paid his dues. Some musclehead getting pushed just because he looks good. So Bill would never shine. He would never. I felt he wasn't doing his job. You know, his brother was bigger and better and would do stuff to make me look great, and Bill would bury me. And I was not smart enough to know what to do about it, but I was smart enough at that point to know what was going on. Plus, I had Curt pointing it out to me. You know, after we'd be in the car, he'd say, "Now, you know when you did that, you should do this, and you should do that," because it was happening to me. And it was happening to me in big markets in Chicago and, you know, Salt Lake City and stuff like that, where I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. Now, my instincts are telling me, just punch him in the face.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get that rep as being one of those kind of guys, because then no one wants to do business with you.
Yeah.
But that's my impressions then. I think Scott was super, and I really didn't care for Bill. If I had a company, I would hire Scott, and I wouldn't hire his brother.
Wow. What are your memories of Wrestlerock and wrestling Ray Stevens?
Well, I didn't wrestle him at Wrestlerock.
Oh, you didn't wrestle him at Wrestlerock?
Who did we wrestle? I think we wrestled the Long Riders at Wrestlerock.
Was it? Okay.
At Kaminsky Park, Curt, Greg Gagne, and I wrestled Nick, Larry
Maybe that was it.
Kaminsky Park, Curt, Greg Gagne, Greg Rambo Gagne.
I remember that gimmick.
He went to Camp Slaughter. Greg, Curt, and I wrestled Nick Bockwinkel, Larry Zbyszko, and Ray Stevens. So you're talking about, here's three heels who are pros, and they know what their job is. They know, okay, they got two baby faces who can work their asses off from Greg and Curt, and then they got this big goof that the office is pushing. So those guys bing, do their stuff, and then they do the, you know, slam one, the other one feeds me, you know, I do all the old time big man, strong man stuff, you know, top wrist lock, throw the guy off, that kind of stuff. And then they put me over, you know, I win 1, 2, 3, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about legendary heels. I mean, Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson were doing stuff in California in the 60s and 70s that it would be groundbreaking today. I mean, if you were to watch those tapes of stuff they did then, it'd be better than stuff you're seeing on TV right now in 2007.
Wow.
I mean, those guys, Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens were, you know, unbelievable.
Wow. And what are your memories of Nick Bockwinkel back then?
Well, my boy, my memory of Nick is that he used to walk around the locker room with a T-shirt on, his loafers and black socks on it, and naked from the waist down. He'd walk around to you, and he'd be giving you the finish while you're sitting there putting your boots on. He'd have his package in your face, be like, "What the fuck, Nick?" Like, okay, I get it, you know. But no, Nick was an absolute pro. You know, same thing. You know, he knew he had way more talent than me, way more experience. But his job was to put this new green guy over that the office was pushing with. Hopefully someday that everybody would make more money if Scott Hall got over.
Yeah.
So he just taught me stuff, you know, told me, just talk to me calmly in the ring. Calm down, my boy. Okay, just complete, absolute pro.
Wow. Now, something I want to ask you, because you were there at the time, we just interviewed John Nord 2 days ago.
Right.
And he was saying that in the AWA, he had a problem with some nights he would have to wrestle guys like Crusher and Mad Dog Vachon, who are obviously older. And here he was, a big guy, having to sell for those guys. And then he'd come back the next month against a younger guy. Nobody would really buy it after he was getting his ass kicked from the Crusher.
Well, like I was saying earlier, he should have been one of the biggest stars in the business. But, you know, he had other priorities in his car business and different things.
Yeah.
I don't know his business, but I enjoyed being around him, and I thought he was money. But like we were saying earlier, is that it was in the era when the business was changing. Guys like Crusher and the Bruiser and Mad Dog and stuff, their time was coming to an end.
Yeah. And
they were talented and they had their following. But now you have a guy who's 6'6", 290 with a 35-inch waist, like Nord, and looks like a young Brody. And the business was changing. There was a crossroads there. Like, you got to put these guys over a little bit, but the older fans are kind of still with it. But it's a new era of fans now because of television. Television it's not a house show business as much as it used to be. Now it's a television industry, and if you don't look the part, people don't buy it. Like, wait a minute, the old dude's beating up that big muscle guy?
Yeah.
Huh? So, you know, and I was in that situation, so it was a little bit, see, Norm was doing it as a heel. I was a big babyface and sometimes had to wrestle an older heel.
Yeah.
And people were going, well, how can you sell? And it was just what we had to do. You just had to try to get through it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really answer for you.
Mm.
I know what John's talking about, though. It was a weird time in our business.
Yeah. What are your memories of Shawn Michaels from back then?
I knew Shawn. I first met Shawn in Kansas City.
Okay.
Because he came into Kansas City from San Antonio. And I have some pictures of my gym at home of Shawn. Man, he looks like he's 12. But he came in, and they started putting, because Marty Jannetty and Bulldog Bob Brown were the tag champs. Excuse me. But they started putting Shawn and Marty together in Kansas City. And now you had two young, handsome, athletic baby faces. And it was kind of good because Danny Spivey was still there for part of that. Mm-hmm. So then we had, you know, we got to have some good matches, good for us at that point with them, because we had two big guys and the two pretty guys, and you know, and Shawn. I remember making a trip with Shawn one time when he explained the business to me. We're riding down the road. I've been working about 6-8 months, and I don't know. I don't understand the business. I don't know. I didn't know there was a kind of a formula. So Shawn goes, we're riding along, and he goes, well, see, what you do is at the beginning, you know, you shine the babyface, make the babyface look good. Then, you know, you get some heat on them. And then, you know, you get the babyface makes a comeback, and then you do the finish. And I went, oh. Because I didn't even know that, I mean, you can always shift it around and make it more complex, but that's the basic ingredients. I mean, sometimes you jumpstart the heat. You know, you start with the heat and stuff. But I didn't even know that. And Shawn was younger than me and continues to be younger than me. But he explained that to me then, and that's when I kind of, you know, we're talking about how things click. And I was like, oh. So I got to wrestle Shawn some then. And then Lanza took me to Kansas City. And by that time now, Shawn and Marty are kind of established as a team in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in Minneapolis, and they're kind of using me pretty good. And now they want to bring the soon-to-be Midnight Rockers to Minneapolis. But they come to me and go, we want to bring them in, but we don't want any problems, and we know you and Jannetty had a problem. And I said, man, as far as I'm concerned, it's history. I said, those guys are great. I said, I got no problem with Jannetty. We did what we did. It was over that night, because the next time I saw him, the next night I went to him and said, well, everybody's telling me I jumped you when you were asleep, so now you're awake. Do you want some of me? And he would no. Because he still had stitches in his face, and if he'd have said yes, I'd have drilled him. Yeah. But he went, no. You know, I said, okay, it's over. Then to me, it's over. Yeah. And so it was over, and I said, no, they're great. Bring them in. And they really took off then. You know, and then Midnight Rockers, they just exploded. And the funny part was, at that time in their careers, Marty was the leader. Marty was this kind of the smarter one about the business. But it didn't take Shawn long for those roles to reverse. Yeah. And Shawn became the leader and continues to, in my opinion, Shawn's the best worker in the industry. Wow. And I got to wrestle him every night for about 2.5 years. Then with Kev on the outside. Then I wrestled Kev for about 1.5 years with Shawn on the outside. So for about 3 or 4 years there, you know, we were in cruise control. Huh. You know, we had our A match, our B match, our C match, depending on the house, you know, we decide what match we're going to give them. Yeah. What do you remember about the Freebirds from back then? Oh, man. I was such a mark for the Freebirds that, you know, the same thing. Here's a couple of pros. These guys are pros. And they know, oh, office wants the big muscle guy over. All right. Because now they've been in Dallas doing it. Yeah. Of course, Von Erichs were a lot more talented than I was at that point. But they knew, oh, we're heels. We get paid big money putting these guys over. They knew it was fake. They had no problem with it. Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, Buddy Roberts just would go out there. You know, they would shine Curt up, then they'd get big heat on Curt. They'd tag me. They would give me a comeback, unbelievable. And they would call it to me as they're doing it. Yeah. Like Buddy would say, slam me, and he'd go, watch for Michael. You know, and then mine slam Michael, he'd go, watch for Bam Bam. And then here come Terry, you know, I said, boom. And he'd say, go back to Buddy. And, you know, and they would just tell me as I'm doing it, because I'd be going, huh? What? Huh? But meanwhile, people were going, and then Michael would go, bow up. come on, fire up, and I'd be going, yeah, and they were fantastic. I was such a mark for the Birds that when Kev, Kid, and I became a package and we were NWO, that's why I created Wolfpack. It was my idea because I wanted us to be the Wolfpack because we were going to be the new Freebirds. There's 3 of us. We're different, but we're like real brothers. We fight with each other, but if you mess with one of us, you got to fight all of us. We don't dress the same, but we're the same colors. And we had they had Freebird rules. They're the tag champs, but you never knew which 2 of the 3 were going to defend the belts. And they all came to the ring together. Nobody else ever did that before. That's what we did. Yeah. And we were Wolfpack rules. And Terry Taylor, when we were working for WCW, the NWO stuff, used to go crazy because he was kind of working in the back. And Kid would be wrestling, or I'd be wrestling, Kev would be wrestling, and we'd all go out together. But he'd go, well, you guys are involved in the match. You're involved in the finish. We go, yeah, we know. But you're going out there together. The people are going to know that you're going to be involved. We go, I know. Huh. That's how we do it, man. To me, if one of my boys is in a match, I'm going to be out there. Because if he's winning, I want to be right there watching. And if he's losing, I'm going to help him. So why would I wait in the back? Oh, gee, he's in trouble. Let me run down the aisle. No, man, I'm going to be right there because I'm old and I can't run that fast. Yeah. I'm going to be right there ringside so I can get involved. Plus, I want that camera time. I mean, it's just how we did it. And we did it because I thought the Freebirds were the coolest thing in wrestling, and I was trying to rip off the Freebirds.
Huh. Wow. What do you remember about your series with Buddy Rose and Doug Summers?
The same thing. Buddy Rose is a genius. He's a super talented heel and a good athlete to be a big chubby dude like that. He's a heck of an athlete. We didn't have as good a matches with them as the Rockers did, because I used to watch the Rockers work with them, and it was like looking at a real life cartoon. Because the Rockers back then, they wore the zebra stuff on their legs and the zebra shirts and kind of a midnight rock. I mean, the Rock and Roll Express sashes and bandanas. And you had them, and then Doug Summers was kind of tall and thin with the peroxide blonde hair, and Buddy was fat with the peroxide blonde hair. But if you sat back and watched it, it was like a cartoon, man. Their stuff was so smooth, and boom, 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 boom. I mean, we had good matches with them, but it was the same thing. You had a couple of professional heels. Curt could do his job. He knew exactly what he was doing, and I was being featured and being groomed. I was just, everybody took care of me because some guys did it maybe because they liked me, and some other guys did it because that was their job, and they were professionals, and that's what they did.
Yeah. Did you wind up going to Memphis at all?
I spent some time there. I don't remember when.
Was it there you went as Texas Scott? Was it?
No, I was never Texas Scott until I was working in Japan, and Vader, Leon White, who I knew from, he was the AWA guy, because he lived in Boulder, and he never moved to Minneapolis. They kept pressuring him to move to Minnie, but he never would. Yeah. So he'd just fly in, and I lived right by the airport, so he'd just knock on my door. Now here's this 400-pounder knock on my door, and I answer the door, and I go, hey, what's up? And he'd just walk in with a suitcase. I go, oh, hey, Leon, you want to stay with me? But so he had worked for Autovance in the CWA in Europe. And
that's right, CWA.
And I was on tour in New Japan with, he was in Vader, and I wanted to work. I wanted to work wherever I could, because I was getting no success in the U.S. So I was working Puerto Rico, Japan, and I wanted to get into Europe. So Leon, called Otto we were in the Kyo Plaza in Tokyo. He called Otto, put me on the phone with him. Leon put me over. Otto hired me. So I'm getting ready to go there. Then at the last minute, Otto calls me. I'm at home in Florida, and Otto calls me and goes, can you get a cowboy hat? I said, okay. Because at that time, to Europeans, anybody from America was a cowboy. So they billed me from Texas. So I was Texas Scott.
And how did you wind up in WCW that time? When you first came the first time?
I was in WCW before as the blonde cowboy gimmick underneath Jabroni guy. They had me. I wasn't even on a contract, but I was getting $1,000 a week on a verbal commitment, and just floundering, not getting anywhere. My feeling about WCW was that destiny was determined before you ever performed, because if you made $750,000 a year, your contract was negotiated before you performed. So if you made $750,000 and I make $50,000, I'm never going to beat you.
Yeah,
I'm probably not even going to be in the same match as you, even though some of those high-paid guys weren't that over, and some of the lower-paid guys were getting over with the people. That just you were pigeonholed into a certain position, and there was no advancement. And it's not that the blonde-haired guy was getting over it all down there.
Yeah.
But when I came back from Germany one tour, my then wife was pregnant, and I called Diamond Dallas Page, who had a good spot then, and said, "Dally, man, I need a job. My wife's pregnant, man. I need a job." Because I was ready to quit wrestling. I was going to go work at Sears or something. But now I got a baby, and I need money quick.
Yeah.
And so I called Dallas, and I said, "You need somebody to stand next to you, make you look small." I said, "You need the diamond stud."
Huh.
So Dally gave me the black hair gimmick, told me to shave the mustache. He wanted me to have the Rob Lowe stubble. And it was even, our first TV was in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and we ate at a Waffle House right by the building, and we're checking out, paying our bill, and they had a little toothpick thing there. And Dallas went, "Toothpicks." So he said, "Well, we both have toothpicks." I went, "All right." So we're walking, and Dallas used to talk on the way to the ring. He had a microphone, and we were doing this strip the stud gimmick, tear away stuff on him. We're looking for a valet for the stud, and blah, blah, blah. And, but Dallas was talking so much on the way to the ring, his toothpick fell out, and I still had mine. And I went to that camera and went, bang, and then the toothpick thing was mine.
Wow.
But Dallas helped me so much. He drove me crazy, but he helped me a lot. Because as soon as I did that stud gimmick, the first time I was on TV, Pat Patterson called my house and said, "Vince loves the new look."
Really? The first time?
He said, "Did you sign a contract?" And I said, "Pat, I didn't want to work for them." I said, "I wouldn't have called your office every week for a year if I did." I said, "I want to work for your office." He said, "Did you sign a contract?" I said, "Yeah, I just got back from Atlanta. I signed a 1-year contract." And he said, "Well, don't worry, kid. In a year, you'll be able to tell them New York wants you."
Wow. All right. As far as Dallas Page goes, I mean, Dallas has told stories where he was ribbed a lot, like when he was in WCW. Do you remember him being ribbed a lot back then?
Yeah, I remember one time they had this dude, Firebreaker Chip,
I remember
something like that. And he was kind of a muscled up dude. And he was kind of ribbing Dally in the locker room. And a lot of people were giving Dallas stuff because, see, Dallas, in my opinion, Dallas didn't grasp the fact that, to me, if you're an announcer, I always viewed that as being above the wrestlers. If you got the headsets on, you're sitting there announcing, that's kind of being above a wrestler. But Dallas wanted to desperately wrestle. And so he started wrestling, and he was older than a lot of the guys, didn't have any experience, but he had a burning desire and stuff. And Dallas is Dallas, man. He's a kook, he's eccentric. I love him like a brother. But he will drive you crazy if you don't know. And he's just so upbeat and so positive and talking and doing it. And some guys just, it's the nature of the business. Some guys are just mean,
Yeah.
So one time the guy said something to Dallas, and I'll tell you what, Dallas face socked him and took him down on the floor. And from that minute on, all of a sudden everybody kind of went, whoa, like, oh, Phyllis Diller's tougher than he looks. A lot of the ribbing backed off then. But one time, I can't remember if it was in Charleston, West Virginia or Morgantown, West Virginia, but we had a battle royal. And it was the managers were also in it. So Dallas was at that point still kind of managing the Diamond Stud. And Humperdinck was in it and stuff like that. So before the match, everybody but Dallas knew that the Steiner brothers were going to strip Dallas naked in the ring. And Dallas is one of the guys who wear 3 or 4 pair of tights, like spandex, long ones, short ones, under tights, everything. And that's when Dallas was with the Freebirds too. He was managing the Birds, he was managing me, he was with Humperdinck. But the thing is, so we get in the ring, and I'm one of the first ones eliminated. So I'm standing in the back watching with Grizzly Smith. He was the agent. And everybody, as soon as the thing starts, the people who Dallas manages and the Birds, Michael Hayes, everybody just turns around and everybody just starts wailing on Dallas. Some of them are live rounds, and they just start beating him down. And then the Steiners just swoop in and take him down, boom. And there's a big dog pile on him.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, it was one of the most amazing feats of strength I've ever seen. Rick Steiner, Rick Steiner, reached down and grabbed Dallas's spandex and just pulled on it. And spandex is pretty tough.
Yeah.
And he pulled on it, and just went till it exploded.
Wow.
Now Dallas is butt-ass naked in the middle of the ring. The people go crazy. They are exploding. They're popping like crazy. Then the funniest thing some people said was more revolting than seeing Dallas naked was Humperdinck took his Bad Street shirt off and threw it to Dallas. a lot of people went, oh my God, whoa. Because I don't know what's worse, Hump with his shirt off or Dallas naked. But Hump gave him shirt, so Dallas is holding the shirt around like this. And Grizzly says, go get him. So I go get him. The one thing, me and Dallas would butt heads about is, to me, okay, I wouldn't want to be stripped naked in the ring. But if you are, you might as well go with it, right? I mean, you might as well go like, oh my God, And really, because the people were popping, but Dallas did it like, big thing, Like, if he'd went, they would have still been popping today.
Yeah.
But he did the, like he didn't want to sell it, but I think after that was kind of, because the way he took it, like, they went, wow, that's about as big a rib as you can pull on somebody. And you know what? Like, it was kind of initiation for him, I guess. They ribbed him. He took it like a man. He didn't bitch. He didn't complain to the office. He didn't do anything. And then that time he face-socked that dude and took him down, everybody kind of went, leave him alone. Nothing, he's all right,
Wow. How about Jim Herd? Remember about Jim Herd?
He was one of the bosses or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
See, I was so low on the totem pole then, bro. I remember the name. I don't think I ever even saw the guy.
Like the white hair?
I mean, I kind of know, but like, I never had any interaction with him. I was so low on a food chain that, he wouldn't have had any reason to talk to me,
Now, when Ric Flair left and went to WWF at the time, and he took the belt with him.
Right.
And some of the guys we've talked to, they said they found it really disrespectful that Rick would take the belt, like it was almost hurting them by taking food out of their mouth.
When Flair took the belt up there, it wasn't that long after that I got to go to New York and be Razor. And Razor was getting a big push. And so they put me with Perfect. Curt Hennig he was on disability, so he was retired. And he was in a great spot. He was an announcer. He already had the reputation as being a great wrestler. So he was a kind of liaison between the boys in the office. He worked with Vince on the Superstar shows as an announcer. He was with Heenan. He was with Flair, and they put me with those guys. So that's about as high as you can go on the heel totem pole at that time.
Yeah.
So, and I remember that now they did weeks and weeks of vignettes of Razor before they go in there. And my dreams are coming true. They're going to push the heck out of me. And I'm really happy about it because Curt has helped me from the AWA days, and he's continuing to help me. Now he's telling me, how to get over with Vince, what to do in the ring, no wasted motion. Don't just do something because you can. Don't just do a move to a guy because you can. And like he taught me, because back in those days there were squash matches. You'd have a guy from the audience against a guy who was getting paid to wrestle. And Curt said, don't go out there and hammer a guy with a bunch of devastating moves because you got to wrestle for 4 or 5 minutes. He'd say, hit the guy with one thing and then just stand there and go, look at you now. Look at you. And I stole from Curt to just pushing your toe on the guy and just go, look at you. Because you don't want to keep hitting the guy with devastating stuff because you're killing your stuff off. Yeah. So Curt taught me that. He said, everything you do has to have a purpose. No wasted motion. Don't run around. Always act like you know what you're doing. Like when you're in the ring, he taught me that you can't afford to buy that kind of TV time. Like every time you're out there, it's a commercial for you. Huh. So take your time, look in the camera, move slowly. But then when you do something, do it explosively, but then look around. Because Vince's key camera guys are slick. They ain't going to miss it. They're going to catch it. You do something cool, it's going to be on TV. So he taught me that but I remember that now I'm with Flair and Curt and Bobby Heenan. And so now my first angle is going to be against Randy Savage, against Macho. It's machismo against Macho. So in Hershey, Pennsylvania, now they set it up by doing it in Wembley at SummerSlam. They injured Randy's leg. So the whole storyline now is Randy has an injured leg, Flair does a figure 4. They're going to take the strap off Savage and put it on Flair. Now, we're in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and the angle is supposed to be they're wrestling. At a certain point, I'm supposed to go, Savage is going to go to the floor. I'm going to come out. Vince wants me to kick him in the leg one time, throw him in. Flair's going to put him in a figure 4. Randy's going to not give up, but pass out. 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
So we're there, and I'll never forget this. I'm standing there waiting by the gorilla position because I'm going to, I have to go when I'm told to go. And I don't know if Vince did this to teach me a lesson or just because that's the way he felt. But they go out and they wrestle for about 10, 15 minutes, and he sends Heenan out. He goes, go out there and get them back here. Because this is before live TV. And Heenan goes out, says something to him. They both come back to the back. And Vince reads them the right. Like, what the F is that? You look like 2 jabronis out there. I told you to work his leg from the beginning. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm standing there going, whoa. That's Ric Flair and Randy Savage getting yelled at. What if I screw up? Shit. You know what I mean? I'm not sure the ink's dry on my contract yet. Holy cow. And he's yelling at these guys are major players. And so he sends them back out and tells him work his leg from the beginning. The whole storyline is his leg is injured, work his leg, work his leg, work his leg. So Rick does. They send me out. I kick him in the leg. I roll him back in. Rick goes another 5 minutes before putting the figure 4 on. Vince is furious. By the time the thing airs, I kick him in the leg, roll him back in. He's in a figure 4. But I remember when we're sitting in a little conference room talking about the meeting, you're talking about the thing with Flair and the belt. That's where this long rambling story is going. Is that I remember kicking when they're talking about doing it because I didn't like Flair because he was in control of my career when I was in WCW, and I didn't like the way he was treating me. And so, and like at the same time, when you don't have anything, you have power. Razor hadn't made a dime yet, so I ain't afraid to say, fuck you, Flair.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, fire me? Shut, go back to the strip club. And they're talking about doing the thing, because I've been talking to Curt about, man, wait a minute. How do we know we can trust Flair? You're going to put Vince's belt on Flair? He took Atlanta's belt. Like, this is the guy you want to carry your banner? Because I didn't like Flair. So I didn't really want to play on his team. And I was about to tell Vince, you sure you trust this guy? Because he's the guy who fucked Turner Broadcasting. So I'm starting, and then Vince goes, is there any questions? And Curt put his foot on mine and tapped me on the foot like, don't say anything. Because I was about to go, yeah, I got a question. You sure you can trust this guy? But Curt gave me the office with his foot, so I didn't say anything. But that's my answer to you. I agree. I thought it was completely unprofessional and very wrong of Rick to take the belt. That's not the way Rick does business. Now, I don't know the backstory. Maybe they screwed Rick over and he felt the need to do that. I don't know Rick's side of it. I just know as a wrestler, that's the wrong thing to do. Like when me and Kev left Vince to go to WCW, we did jobs on the way out. We did jobs at Madison Square Garden. Nobody ever did jobs on the way out when they were high up. Yeah. You know what I mean? We didn't have to, but it was the right thing to do. We didn't want to screw the fans.
Yeah. In WCW, what do you remember about your matches with Brian Pillman when he was the Dirty Yellow Dog?
I never wrestled him when he was Dirty Yellow Dog because he was a babyface and I was a babyface.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys did wrestle some matches together.
Well, maybe when I was a jabroni, like cowboy, like mustache guy, and then I don't think as a Diamond Stud I ever wrestled the Yellow Dog.
Okay.
Brian was really talented, was getting a big push, He was a good guy, good talent, and they liked him.
Yeah.
But like my career was I was so low on the food chain then that every once in a while I'd be thrown in a match, but I was of so little consequence that I don't remember any of that stuff.
Oh, okay.
I know Brian did great. And actually that Yellow Dog thing was something that was ripped off that Barry Windham did in Florida.
That's right. Yeah.
That's when it was done right.
Yeah.
When Barry did it, it was sweet.
How did you come up with what was then the Diamond Death Drop, then later the Razor's Edge?
I just was trying to think of just a cool move. Actually, I think I stole it from Danny Spivey. Is that what Danny said?
I forget. I don't think he did.
I think because Danny had been working in Japan, and what Danny did was one time I saw him pick a guy up for like that old style backbreaker like this. And I was just trying to think, because I remember when I was sitting there thinking, how come I haven't made it? I think I got a good body. I think I can talk. I think I have a good enough look. Why aren't I successful when all the guys I started with are successful? So I started studying all the dudes who were on top and looking for the common denominator. Not so much like stealing their moves or anything like that, but what's the common denominator? Because I was a huge fan of guys like Jake and stuff, Jake the Snake. So I went, okay, you got to have a look. Not everybody has to be a muscle guy, but you got to have your look.
Yeah.
You got to be able to talk. You got to have a couple of signature moves. And you got to have a cool finish. That's it. That's what all the top guys had. You only need 3 or 4 moves. Like Jake had just a couple of moves. So all I had was, I had sack of shit. I actually started using that Razor's Edge Diamond Death Drop in Puerto Rico. I did it to Carlos Colon because that's where I just practiced it. Because I went like this, and a lot of the guys in Puerto Rico were littler, and I was bigger then. So I just started practicing. And the first couple times I did it, man, I was landing on my elbows and stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I was dropping guys on their heads, but it was cool looking. I'll never forget the first time I did it, Bob, when in Atlanta. And Bobby E went, man, that's a cool finish. I wouldn't want to take it, but it looks cool. And like what I call sack of shit, that they call fall away slam or whatever. I was in the ring, I was working with Carlos Colon, and I said, duck the clothesline cross body. So I caught him and, gave him a sack of that. And I come back to the locker room and he goes, hey, amigo, what was that? He goes, you throw me like a sack of shit. and from that moment on, it became sack of shit. Like when I'm in the ring with dudes I know, I go, duck the clothesline, sack of shit. But I just kind of developed that stuff in Puerto Rico because I really learned a lot in Puerto Rico about how to get over, it's a real violent society. And to get over, you got to be a badass. You can't be a cartoon. You got to be a serious heel. Because I didn't want to be a ha-ha heel. Like Chief J. Starmer used to say, too much ha-ha. Like I didn't want to be a comedian, funny heel. I wanted to be like a serious badass. And so I learned a lot of that in Puerto Rico.
Now, you said you were talking to Pat Patterson while you were in WCW. How did you finally make the move?
Well, okay, now he tells me, don't worry, in a year you'll be able to tell you want a job. Of course, a year goes by, and then I still have to call, and I'm going, I said, screw it. I called Curt, I called Perfect. I said, man, if I'm destined to be a job guy in this business, then I would rather do it in the WWF because I said, get me Barry Horowitz's job.
Yeah.
Because Barry Horowitz had a baseball card. I mean, everybody who worked for Vince was a star. Virgil was a star. Guys who did jobs were stars. Everybody was a star. Some guys were higher up, but everybody was a star. So I said, if I don't have it to be a main eventer, I still want to wrestle because even the lowest paid wrestlers get paid, and I have no education. So I thought, this is what I still want to do this for a living. If I have to be a bottom guy, I'd rather do it for the best company. Yeah. So I told Curt, give me Barry Horowitz's job. So they give me a tryout. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, the very first match of the night. But now I got this stud look and the stud moves. And I walk out, and a lot of times when Vince will give you a trial match, they usually have you do a job just to check your attitude. Because a lot of guys do boo-boo face. They don't want to do a job. So this time, though, they had me go over. So I go out and I get a job guy. I beat the hell out of him. Hit him with my career ender, like set him up on the top, do the belly to back suplex. That's it. I hit him with my finish, And I know the match went great because I can hear it from the people. Plus, it's easy when you go on first, instead of 50th. Back then, it was taped show. And I come through the curtain, and I've been around enough, and Curt has coached me to be, like I came through and I was real humble. Like I knew it was great, but I came through just went back in the locker room. Then they said, Vince wants to see you. Okay, and Curt goes with me, which was such an advantage because I was really nervous, but now I got my buddy with me. Yeah. And Curt and Vince were real tight. So I go in there and he goes, well, I had a very impressive match. He says, got to put a gimmick on you. And he goes, I understand your father's in the Army. I said, yes, sir. I said, Vince, you want me to be G.I. Joe? I'll be the best G.I. Joe I can be. I said, did you ever see Scarface? He went, no. And I said, say hello to the bad guy. And Curt was doing the shtick with me because we used to do it in the car in Minneapolis. Wow. So we're doing you need somebody like me. So you can point your thinking finger and whisper, look. there goes a bad guy. You're never going to see another bad guy like me. And we're doing this stuff, and he hasn't seen the movie. So he thinks I'm a genius. He thinks I'm making this stuff up, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm giving him the whole shtick. You know, I said, all I want is what I got coming to me. The world, Chico, and everything in it. And these are lines right out of the movie. And he thinks, oh my God. And plus it's a shoot for me because I am hungry. I am Scarface because, you know, I want to be rich like these guys that I see in the locker room. You know?
Yeah.
And so he goes, well, okay, we need a name. And I know I'm meeting with Vince, so I thought of some names. And I'm going there prepared. So I was thinking like maybe, and the business was different then. You had to have a kind of a marketable hook. You know, so I was thinking maybe Shrug Shadow, or I was thinking of different names. But then I thought Razor. And I said, how about Razor? And he went, well, there's already Razor Ruddock. You know, the boxer. I said, I kick his monkey fucking ass. I squash him like a cockroach. And Vince just started laughing. He said, we need a last name starts with an R. So I went, okay. I went to the bathroom. Tito Santana was in there. Tito was at the urinal. I was washing my hands. I said, Tito, I need a last name starts with R. He went, Ramon. I ran right back to Vince's office. I went, Razor Ramon. He said, that's it. And that was, then he left TV and took me to South Beach, and we shot vignettes of Razor. And,
wow.
And it was all stuff right out of the movie. Again, Vince doesn't know. I'm going, no, man, I need a caddy, an older caddy, but with like leopard interior. And I need this, I need that. And I bought, in Florida, I bought a bunch of silk pants and gaudy shirts. They're expensive, but, you know, it was Razor.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it was Tony Montana. See these shoes, man? $300, man. I'm somebody important. You know? Like, to me, like Scarface's whole deal is if he had money, he's wearing it. You know?
Yeah.
And Vince dug it, and it worked.
Did you kind of have the feeling when you were shooting the vignettes and everything was going on that you knew this was going to work?
It sounds really egotistical, but yeah, I did. And see, I had Vince there. Vince left TV to go personally direct this. And that was like unheard of. Curt told me Vince doesn't leave TV. He said, this is a big deal. Don't screw it up. So I go there, and I'll never forget Vince telling me, when I do the first couple months, he goes, no, wait. I want you to talk even slower. Because I would go, say hello to the bad guy. And he would go slower. Because it's obnoxious. You know, it gets people hot. Because I'd go, I'm coming to the WWF. And it was so slow. It's like people are going, yeah, okay. You know, spit it.
Yeah.
You know, like I'd walk out there and I'd go, everybody listen to me. And Vince coached it, and I did it the way he said. And I mean, I had a feeling it was going good. Because I'd been around, 5-6 years by now.
Yeah.
And I knew I had a kind of a hot gimmick. And then when, if Vince gets behind it and pushes it, it's going to go. That's probably the best go.
Yeah. Come on in. Oops.
Come on in, Ledge. I'll make you proud. Come on in, Ledge. I'll make you proud.
It's set.
I already put you over, Ledge. You missed that segment.
Oh, I'm all right. Well, that's good. Just pretend I'm not here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Zbysko's just entered the room. Living legend, Larry Zbysko. I already told the whole Winnipeg story, how great you are.
Oh, thanks.
Now, this was when you were coming in as Razor, it was kind of a weird time in the WWF because you had Hogan kind of on the way out and more of a emphasis on athleticism. Did you kind of feel like a mix in the locker room of some guys that were, part of the New Deal and some guys that maybe were a little outdated?
Well, the main thing I remember is that's when Vince was under real scrutiny for the steroid investigation.
Yeah.
So everybody had to be clean. They drug tested us because I was taking steroids prior to that. So I went from 290 to about 260.
Wow.
But what happened for me then was it worked better because at 260, and then like throughout my whole career, I made more money being smaller because I could wrestle Rey Mysterio or I could wrestle Big Show. Because when you're too big some guys get locked into that thing that they can't sell for a guy who's smaller or something. But I'm not sure I understand what you mean about the mix of things. There was a transition going on.
Yeah.
But see, for me, I was so happy that I was getting a push and I was at the big time. I wasn't really worried about any transition. I knew my pocketbook was transitioning upward.
At what point in your career did you kind of think to yourself, I finally made it, I succeeded at this?
I don't think the way that Vince drove us, and I think he was probably smart to do it. It's like, the way I perceived it was, like, I'll never forget my first match in the Garden. I'm wrestling Randy Savage. And the music's playing. Vince is standing right by me. And I'm getting ready to go out. And he goes, wait. Make them wait. So we wait until the music's playing and playing, then I come out. Mm. But the point I'm trying to make is the way Vince, in my opinion, directed his talent was, when you go through the curtain, he's there going, you're a major star. Everybody in this building is here to see you. You're a star. Go out there and tear the house down. And when you come back through, you're lucky to have a job because there's 10 guys who'll do it for less. Go get ready and get to the next town. Wow. Not that he ever said those words, but you're only as good as your last performance. What have you done lately? I don't care what you did last week. You know, because the agents who would go to house shows would watch the matches. One guy would be in charge of the box office. The other guy would watch the matches. And they would watch them, and these guys were smart. And they'd watch the match, and if you come back, they'd go, you sick? You hurt? No. Well, what the hell was that? Were you taking a night off? You don't do that shit. You work your ass off every night, or we'll get somebody else to do it. You know, yes, sir. You know, I mean, you're only as good as your last performance. And I think that kind of mentality was good. Plus, back then, man, you know, we worked 20, 30 days in a row. You know, we were on the road all the time. And we were happy to do it. It was a grind, but at the same time, you get good at wrestling, working all the time like that.
Was it hard to adjust to the travel schedule, find time to work out and eat right and that kind of thing?
Well, see, at that time, too, I decided that, in my opinion, like, I was never one of them body guys who shaved down and posed or anything. I just wanted to be a wrestler who happened to lift weights, not like a weightlifter who wrestled. So, and I always felt like Tarzan gets more pussy than Mr. Universe. So I never worried about being too big. I traveled with Shawn Michaels for most of my early part of my career in WWF, and our routine was wrestle, go out, party, do what we're going to do, go to the hotel, next morning get up, eat breakfast, go to the tanning bed, lay in the tanning bed while the food digests, and go in, do 30 minutes on the Stairmaster, then we would superset pull-ups and dips, go. Go eat again, go to town. You know, because we called it a Tarzan workout, just enough to, you know.
Pump you up. And
yeah, it was enough, you know.
Yeah. What do you remember about when Bill Watts came in and helped Vince with the booking?
I remember he didn't last very long, but one thing I do remember was Watts liked me. And one time we were in Madison Square Garden, and Watts and Vince and Pat were up in the audience watching the show. And that's when they were really, Kev was the world champ, and Shawn was the Intercontinental champ. And they were wrestling men on a mission because they were getting Mabel ready for Kev at SummerSlam. So they were really building Mabel or Viscera, whatever they call it now, to wrestle Kev. So Shawn and Kev wrestled Mabel in a single, but Mo was out there. And so they beat Kev up or Diesel up and left him laying. So Shawn came out to make the save. People pop. This is Madison Square Garden. Shawn comes out. They beat him up, leave him laying. So then they send Razor. Razor comes out. They beat me up, leave me laying. Because they're getting these guys strong because they're getting them ready for Kev. And then Kev's going to beat them, you know, but they're building them. So now they leave all of us laying and they leave. So we all get up slow. We're in the Garden. Now, I've already had the ladder match with Shawn in the Garden prior to this. So I pick up the world belt. I look at it. I walk over and hand it to Kev. And I think at this team too. See, they're already promoting SummerSlam, Kev versus Mabel, and they've just added the rematch of the ladder match, Shawn versus Razor. So now I pick up IC belt. I kind of look up at the ceiling. Now, this is where we've had this other match in the garden, and the fans are hip, and they know right away. I look at it. I look up at the ceiling, and people start buzzing. And Shawn's smart, so he starts going, yeah, bring it to me. It's mine. Bring it here. Bring it here. Bring it here. So I look at it. I walk over. I stick it out like this, and Shawn reaches for it, and I drop it. And everybody goes, oh, and I go, oh, I got you. And then I roll out of the ring, and I start to walk down the aisle. Shawn Michaels does not like to be made a fool of. I'm walking down the aisle, and I get shoved in the back so hard I get like whiplash. I thought a mark had jumped over the rail, and it was Shawn. But I'll never forget, Bill Watts came to me afterwards, and he goes, I don't know what they're doing with you. You're over like a son of a bitch. I don't know why they don't use you better. He said, I'll tell you what they do. You weren't expecting that push in the back. We're going to, no, sir. But see, Watts wanted full control, and Vince wouldn't give it to him, so he was there like a week.
Yeah. What do you remember about your first big series with Bret Hart?
I wrestled Bret. I worked there a year before Bret even said hi to me. You know, Bret's just a real eccentric kind of cat. Not that he was being standoffish or anything. It's just the way Bret is. And I wrestled him at the Royal Rumble in Sacramento. And when they were build race, then I put Bret over. But and see, too, I had Curt, I had Perfect in my ear telling me that, I had to yield to Bret. Razor didn't get much of his stuff in. It was Bret's match, We did what Bret wanted to do.
Yeah.
If years later and haven't had more experience and stuff, it would have been a different match.
Mm. Now, some guys, obviously Flair being one of them, has said that Bret's overrated. Some say he's not. What do you think? You've wrestled him a million times.
If I had a wrestling company, I would want Bret on my team. I think he's great. He's great. One thing about Bret is, one thing I noticed, I learned a lot when I was working, for Vince and then working, at WCW. Sometimes, and Larry's back there, he can probably echo on this, is that sometimes you need guys whose wrestling is entertaining enough that the announcers can talk about other matches. They can talk about angles while these guys perform. Because Booker sometimes used to complain, man, they always talk about something else during my match. And I said, you know why, Book? Because you're so athletic and your wrestling is so aesthetically pleasing to watch that they don't have to talk about your moves because they speak for themselves. Mm. And guys like that, and that's how Bret was. Bret could wrestle, and guys like Benoit and Chris Jericho, and guys who are technically really sound. They're wrestling, Eddie Guerrero. Their wrestling is pretty to watch. It's pretty.
Yeah.
So you don't have to talk about every move they make. You can talk about it. And later on, Hogan will be wrestling Sting and blah, blah, blah. You can talk about the other angles during these matches. So Bret had that ability. Everything he did was crisp. If I owned a company, I would hire Bret.
Wow. Memories of your matches against Bob Backlund?
See, I wrestled. What happened was Diesel had beat Backlund for the WWF Championship, and Jeff Jarrett, Double J, had beat Razor for the Intercontinental Championship. So I'm supposed to wrestle Jeff in the B towns, and Kev's in the A towns, supposed to be wrestling Backlund. The thing is, their new champion, Diesel, is having horrible matches with Backlund because Backlund is a different style of wrestling. He's not making Kev look the way they want Kev to look. They want him looking great and strong and people screaming and yelling. So they switch it. They send Backlund to work with me, and they send Double J to go bounce around for Kev. So now I'm working with Backlund. And so I go to Vince, and I was a huge mark for Dick Murdoch, and I'd been in Japan with Dick Murdoch. So I go to Vince and said, look, Backlund's doing this old school thing and his old school rap on a mic and stuff. I said, can we bring Dick Murdoch in, kind of put him with Backlund so that at least I can trade punches with Murdoch? Because Murdoch throws one of the best punches in the business, and I think I throw a pretty good punch. So when we did that, Vince, at that point, I'd been around long enough to ask for things. So Vince brought Murdoch in. Murdoch would sit at a chair at ringside. Backlund would go out and talk in big words and stuff. Then Murdoch would come out and go, well, I don't know what you said, but it better been good. And he said, I'm just going to pull up a chair here and watch. And he'd put his chair right outside the ring, And he'd sit there, and we did a spot where boom, 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 and Backlund would sidestep, and I'd go over the top and just kind of bump Dick a little bit, enough where he'd get angry. So then, bang, bang, bang. I can't remember what happened. I'd be selling or something. He'd throw me in. Anyway, Dick would become involved in the match, and Dick and I would start trading punches. And then boom, 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 I'd hit Dick. I'd hit him with the discus punch, my Kerry Von Erich tribute. I hit him with the discus. I'd go, that's it. I'd stick him like I'm going to go for my finish. I'd go like this, and Backlund would come behind me and put me in that chicken wing, and they'd leave me laying. But at least we got the people up before we did it, because otherwise I couldn't do it, because Backlund doesn't throw punches. And Razor was like a punching babyface, so that's what I mean. Bob was, a super person and all that, but like you're talking about before, like the Crush and the Bruiser and guys from different eras, he was in a different era,
Yeah, Nord said a lot of the same things when he would work with them up there too. I'd like to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you know, but remember Man Mountain Rock, Max Payne?
Yeah.
He's been shopping this video around for like the last couple of years, like a home video that he took when he went on the road, when he was in the WWF with you guys.
Oh, in the bus or something?
Yeah, and it supposedly has all the guys, a lot of guys doing drugs, one of them might even be Louis Spicolli's on there talking about having sex with a prostitute and stuff. What do you think about
Which, by the way, was legal in Europe. God bless Louis.
Yes. What do you think about something like that, guy? Now
I think he better be real careful what he does, because he'll get sued, because I didn't sign any kind of release.
Yeah.
He can't make money off it. He can show it to his friends at his house, but he can't commercially distribute something without getting a release from everybody who's on that video, the way I understand it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame that he is so talentless and so hard for money that he has to cash in on something like that,
Yeah. We touched on your series with the 1, 2, 3 Kid. What do you think even today, when like that night that he pinned you is still one of the most remembered moments on Raw, even to this day, years later?
What's so funny to me is that years later, when I met guys like Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrero in WCW, they saw it in Mexico, and they thought, because of the way the moonsault happened, it looked like Kid's knee hit me. They thought it was a shoot. They thought I was knocked out. I remember leaving the Manhattan. When I left the ring in the Manhattan Center, going upstairs to the dressing room, and Papa Sean and guys come to me going, "Man, did you fail a piss test? Are you fired?"
Wow.
And I knew about 6 months before. I just didn't tell anybody, because Vince said, "Don't tell anybody, because it won't work if you tell people." But I'm just glad that it happened, and then to have Kid go on to be such a dear friend of mine is even cooler. Because if he wasn't such a cool guy, I would have hated to do it and then have the guy turn out to be like a jack off.
Right.
Kid had a room in a hotel down the street, and he slept in my room last night. He's this little psycho. He comes and visits me. He came for a weekend, stayed for a week at my house in Florida. He's the kid.
Wow. As now today, and you talked about this when you were talking about putting Kid over and how you went about it and that kind of thing when you were younger. Do you think the art of the whole idea of somebody doing a job and putting somebody over is lost when it comes to guys bitching and complaining about not wanting to put certain guys over?
See, I broke in, when I was in Kansas City and stuff like that, I was doing jobs for guys like Rufus R. Jones, who was probably 60 then, and I was jacked up about 290. And Rufus would beat me with 2 freight trains and a headbutt, 2 tackles and a headbutt. And it took him 6 seconds to get down and cover me. So I knew early on it was fake. I always knew it was fake. I never had a problem with that. And I used to get in trouble in WCW for doing jobs for guys. In fact, I wrestled Chris Jericho in the Spectrum in Philly. And it was leading into a match against Lex Luger at Halloween Havoc. And Larry Zbyszko was going to be the special referee. And Larry was announcing on Nitro that night. So Bischoff told me to just go out there, squash Jericho, keep hitting him with your finish until Zbyszko comes to the ring, square off with Zbyszko, get what you can out of it, then roll out of the ring. So I went to Chris and said, "Chris, how many times have you been in the Spectrum?" He went, "Never." And I said, "I've been here 200 times. And Philly's a a tough town. I mean, it's a great town, but I mean, they ain't gonna like Lionheart Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
So I said, man, the only way we're gonna get any kind of reaction is if you beat me. I said, think of some cool way to beat me out of my finish. I said, come tell me later. Don't tell anyone. And if anybody says anything to you after the match, tell them it was Hall's idea, and I'll take all the heat. So we did it, and Chris was smart. I picked him up like this for my finish. He kicked his feet off the turnbuckle, small package me 1, 2, 3. Then I hammered him. Then I beat him on my finish. Then Larry came. We did the angle. I thought it was way better. And when I came back to the locker room, Bischoff goes, didn't I tell you to go over? And I went, you didn't like it? Yeah, but didn't I tell you to go over? I said, you tell me you didn't like what I just did? I'm not saying I didn't like it, because Bischoff and me we had a crazy relationship, but he said, I didn't say I didn't like it, but I thought I told you to go over. I said, man, I just thought it was my job to make this segment as entertaining as I could.
Yeah.
Oh, just never mind. But I don't know, man. I think it's television, and you're supposed to make it as exciting as you can. And if you have to, I felt the right thing to do that night in Philadelphia was for me to lose, to get a reaction, because I want my segment to be exciting and entertaining. Yeah. And I already knew that I had Larry Zbyszko involved in it, which is a big deal. And I'm going into an angle against Lex Luger, who's a major babyface, and we're going into a pay-per-view. So I wanted my segment to be exciting, and I felt that was the right thing to do. I think I was at that point in WCW. I was probably the highest paid job guy in the history of the business.
Wow. Memories of your matches with Jeff Jarrett?
I knew Jeff from working for his father's company in Tennessee, and Jeff came in, and Razor had that Tito Santana spot, upper middle babyface, where guys come up, heels come up, they work with Kid first, then they go to Razor, and if they have good match with Razor, then they go over, then they work with either Shawn Michaels or Diesel, and if the match with Razor isn't up to par, then they're on the way down. Mm. So I was working with Jeff, and I think Jeff would agree that he got better at working with me, because I'd been working with a lot of great guys. I mean, I'd worked with Shawn Michaels every night for 2 years. So, I could go, and I knew how to do all the, I had big man stuff that I could do with like Kev. So if I wrestled a big guy, I had my big man stuff. Wrestled the smaller quick guys, I had the little quick guy stuff. So I had a little file, a photo file of stuff to do,
Yeah. So
I tried to do stuff I did with Shawn, with Jeff. It didn't click right away, but after a few matches, we got in the groove. Like I actually was watching old tapes before, and I saw our first match, and I went, ooh. And then I watched one like at WrestleMania 11 or something, and I went, oh, okay, we got better, Because at first I made the mistake of coming down to the guy's level. Like sometimes if the guy couldn't step up, sometimes I made the mistake of coming down, and guys like Curt Hennig and stuff and Shawn jumped in my face and went, no, man, better one guy looks bad than both guys look bad. If he can't go, bury him. Mm. So that's what we did.
Wow.
But Jeff is a pleasure to work with. And see, he's a Southern style. He, in the South, they throw punches.
Yeah.
So me and Jeff traded punches, and that was fun.
Wow. Speaking of Shawn, going into the ladder match at WrestleMania, how far did you and Shawn want to go as far as pushing the limits with it?
What happened was we showed up in some towns out west, which were Blackjack Lance's towns. And see, I knew Lance from many, so I was kind of Lance's boy. And we just showed up in some towns. And what had happened is Shawn, for some reason, had been suspended. So he still had the Intercontinental belt. He'd never been beaten. So then Vince needed an Intercontinental champion. So they had a battle royal, and then the last two guys were me and Rick Martel, and then Martel put me over, so I was the Intercontinental champ. But Shawn had never been beat. So when Shawn came back from this bogus suspension, he wore his belt, and I wore my belt, and we do interviews, and he'd go, "We never beat me," and I'd go, "Yeah, you're right, I know. You never beat me either." Mm. And if so it was a natural angle. It worked out sweet, because so we just showed up in these towns out west in house shows, and we're having ladder matches. And we're going, what? We never even had one. So we were just out there, and actually we had some better matches that weren't televised. We had some sweet matches in house shows where sometimes the stuff just goes right. Like sometimes stuff happens accidentally, like the ladder will bounce off the rope and come back and hit, just things will happen that you don't plan. We had some better ones that people saw live that weren't on pay-per-views.
Yeah.
But Lanza, we were just supposed to have a regular match at WrestleMania, and Lanza told Vince that these guys are having a hell of a ladder match. Maybe you should stick that on the pay-per-view. And because of Lanza, we had a ladder match there. But we, naturally we wanted to have the best match we could. And, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was good. It was a really good match. But the way I remember it, man, it seems like we had one in San Bernardino or somewhere out there in front of not that many people. That was better.
Wow. Did you know it after the match? Did you know you had a great match at WrestleMania?
I could feel it during the match that it was just going. Because you got to remember, I've wrestled Shawn so many times. I traveled with him. We shared rooms together. We were in rental cars together. We were on airplanes together. So we knew each other so well. All we had to do was look at each other. We didn't have to talk. We could look. And you look at him and go, remember Chicago? Yeah, okay. Remember what we did in Boston? All right. You'd be on the floor and you look at him and go, Boston. And you go, yeah. And we do, we had such good chemistry and such good timing. But things were just falling in place. And plus, it was Madison Square Garden, It was just it was a dream come true, I remember, though, with that type of match, see, once you set it in motion, you can't edit it or speed it up. We had to do what we had, once it's in motion, you have to keep just plodding along. And I'll never forget coming back to the locker room, and we felt we had a pretty sweet match. And I remember, too, laying there, like I climbed up, grabbed both belts, and fell down. And I'm laying there Sean selling, and Baby Earl Hebner's referee. And he comes over and goes, Shawn said, climb up the ladder with both belts. So then I climbed back up and did that, and there was this famous picture of me holding both belts. That was Shawn's idea.
Wow.
Because I would lay there and sold. Because Shawn's such a pro that he wants the match to be good no matter who's being featured, because it's our match, And but when I got back to the locker room, Savage went, first of all, I want to say great match, and I want to say you're very selfish. Because we went long and cut into their time. What time is it, man?
4:18.
What time's our flight leave, Ledge?
Oh, like 8:30.
Okay, so we got to be there at 6-ish, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
6:30.
We got to eat. Did you eat yet?
No.
I'll take you out for dinner when we wrap up.
We're going to finish that. I'm going to have a smoke.
All right, buddy.
At what point do you think the clique in general started to gain any kind of political power in the WWF?
Well, first of all, Bam Bam Bigelow, God rest his soul, was the one who named us the clique. But we were just a bunch of friends who all thought the same. And again, it was really the influence of Perfect that Curt Hennig had on us. Curt taught me a lot, and many. Shawn was around him. Then when Kev came along, when Diesel came along, we taught him the way we thought business should be done. When Kid came along, Kid had to do business the way we thought it should be done because he was in our clique. And later, Triple H came in. We taught him, this is how we do business. This is the way we think it should be done. If you put a guy over, man, you put him over like a MFer. Like Pat Patterson was the one who was so sweet. When Pat Patterson tells you a finish, you can feel it, man. You can feel the people. Like he go, you make a comeback, bada bing, bada boom, you make a hell of a comeback, bada, and then he beats you. He's telling you the finish, and you can feel it. You can hear the people. And he used to tell me and Shawn, he'd go, okay, you guys have a good match every night, but your main event, it got to be a little something extra. You know what I mean? Your main event, something extra. So that's when we started thinking, like, I get it. This is the distinction between being like a great wrestler and then being the shit. It's something extra. That's when you start doing the false. I went to, and I went to, and then, where people go, man, after you hit, like Shawn and I would do some matches where we do 15, 20 false finishes, and pretty soon people are going, we don't even care what happens now. We've had our money's worth. You know what I mean? Like, do whatever you want, guys. Hell of a match. It's just things that I wish I could spend more time around Pat Patterson because he's one of the smartest guys in the business.
Wow.
You know, and just that stuff about doing something extra, you know, something at the Click. That's the way we operated. And the thing was too is if 3 or 4 guys are in the main events, you get a certain amount of power because you go to Vince and go, well, what about this? I think we should do this. What about this guy? Man, this guy's got a hell of a talent. Why don't we do something with him? Or how about da-da-da and have Kid run down and do that, you know, and you start kicking around ideas. And if you're riding down the car, see, we all travel together too. So if you got 3 or 4 guys riding down a car and all we do is wrestle, we're on the road 25 days a month. All we do is we're consumed with wrestling and partying and doing whatever we're doing. But I mean, we're talking business a lot of the time. So you start talking about stuff. So then you going in and you got an idea, and your ideas just happen to involve all your buddies, you know, because you know they think the same. And I don't know. I mean, I just think it's funny that this whole Click thing is growing to this mythic portion. Oh my God, because so many people hate the Click. There's a whole faction of people that hate the Click. They're selfish, all they care about is themselves. Well, yeah, man, I'm an independent contractor. Get it? Independent. It's like, yeah, man, like if I get to choose who I want to do business with, I'd rather do business with my friends. You know, I mean.
Speaking of myths, there's a myth legend that the Click went on strike one weekend at the house shows. What's the story behind that?
What town was that? One time we had a big summit. One time I remember, I can't remember what town we were in, but all of a sudden we were all sitting in a restaurant eating, and Shawn got pissed off and he called the office. And then what had happened was they did an angle where Kid was a special referee and I was wrestling Sid, and I picked Sid up for my finish. Kid pulled him down. I turned around, and Sid powerbombed me, and Kid count like that. And DiBiase stuck the money in my mouth, and Kid walked by, took the money, put it in his pocket. I mean, it was sweet.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be a non-title match, and it was a tape draw. We used to do one live and one tape. Then the word came down that they were going to go ahead and just make it. They were going to switch the belt anyway. So I called Vince and said, Vince, you want Sid to have the belt? I got no problem putting Sid over in the middle, anywhere you want on TV. I said, but by doing this way, and Vince was real big on the perception. And I said, the perception is that I wouldn't do business. You're making it look like Razor was a mark and he wouldn't do business, so you had to steal the belt. You had to swerve the belt off me. And I said, that's bullshit. So then, and by then, Kev had called, and next thing you know, Vince goes, where are you guys? And we're staying at some little worse Western in somewhere in Indiana, something like that. Vince and Pat Patterson fly to the hotel, rent a conference room. We all sit there and have a meeting. And then they come to the town with us. And we get there late, and everybody's going, ooh, you're in trouble. And then in walks Vince and Pat. No, we ain't in trouble. We're with the boss. I think that might be what you're referring to. I mean,
yeah, I think that's it. The weekend that Vince flew to the house shows.
Yeah, he came to the house show because he went, what's going on? Because now he's got several of his major guys all bitching. And that's the worst thing you could have. You don't want your top couple matches riding down the road going, because by the time you get to town, nobody wants to do a thing. I'm quitting. Yeah, me too. Because negativity spreads just like positivity does.
Yeah.
You know.
What happened between you and Shane Douglas in the shoot that we did with him, among many? He said that when you guys worked together in the WWF, that you guys were working every night and you wanted to do the same exact match, and he wanted to change it up, and there was friction between the two of you guys. All due respect to Shane, we get along a lot better now than we did when we were working together, because I see him once in a while. I'd see him at TNA, but Shane came in with this huge reputation as being a phenomenal worker. So again, Razor was supposed to get him ready for Shawn, because they thought Shawn Michaels and Shane Douglas were going to rewrite wrestling, because he had this reputation from independent shows and ECW and all this stuff as being great. I thought he was overrated. When I worked with him, so I said, okay, I'm working with him. I'll do my little guy athletic match and stuff. Let's see what he can do here. Because he's coming in, he don't know anything. We're in these major markets. I got to have a good match. If I have to fall back on my standard stuff,
You don't think Flair does the same stuff all the time? I used to always laugh and go, why does Flair do the same match all the time? Then you know what I realized? Because he works with different jabronis every night. So he goes, you know what? Let's just do what I know this works. So I'll just do my stuff.
Yeah.
So, I did some stuff with Shane. The one thing I knew and it was probably really unprofessional of me, but we were in the Royal Albert Hall in London, and we had just flown in that day, went to the hotel, and we had to go straight to the arena and work. Now, this is the Royal Albert Hall, man. This is where the Beatles have played. This is a cool building, and it is sold out, and this is London, England. And I'm wrestling Shane there, and we're having a match, and we're tired, man. We've flown, we've been partying on the plane. I mean, we're tired. But, when you're in the ring, it's a whole different thing. It's let's go. So we're working, all of a sudden he goes, go home. So we go home. I get back in the locker room, and I said, you hurt, man? And he went, oh, no, I'm just kind of tired. It was a long flight. Now, I should have taken him in the shower or something like that. And I went, you're tired. F you. Take some fucking pills then, motherfucker, like everybody else. Because this is how I feed my family. This is London, England, you fucking prick, and this is how I get paid. I don't care if you're tired. Which is wrong, and excuse my language, and a reference to drugs is not the answer. But that's what a lot of guys did when they were tired. You know what I mean? You're tired, drink some coffee. I don't give a fuck you're tired, Tell it to somebody who cares, because I don't care. But that was not the good way. That's not the way to start a working relationship. And we didn't have very good matches, and he didn't have any success in WWF. And not because I held him down and buried him the way he may feel. I just think he was overrated. He wasn't as good as advertised.
No. Do you think you guys, the Clique, do you think you guys were too hard on Chris Candido back then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it was not his fault. It was a stupid gimmick. I mean, come on, man. It was a horrible gimmick. Chris is a really talented, good worker. And the thing is, too, coming in with your girlfriend into that Shark Tank environment that we had going, we almost prided ourselves on how vicious our locker room was. You know what I mean? You're new. Okay, let's see what you got. Everybody go to the curtain and watch. No competition from him. Don't have to worry. Or if you're good, ooh, wow, I better watch this guy. Shit, I better step my game up. This guy's pretty damn good. And it was a brutal, vicious, cutthroat kind of environment. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but those were the conditions. Some guys thrive on that. Some guys don't. The guys who thrive survived and prospered. And but he got ribbed and brutalized and stuff a lot. But then I crossed paths with him later and stuff, and it seemed like he got it. Because he knew he had a lame gimmick. It wasn't his fault, Body Donnas and Skip and Sonny. I mean, come on. That ain't going to get over. But yeah, it was, he got treated bad. I crossed past him in TNA like years later, and it was, there was no hard feelings and stuff. And I was happy that, because I think people have to realize that a lot of it, man, was the conditions,
Yeah.
It's work, man. It ain't play. It's show business. It's not show fun. It's business. It's cutthroat. I'm getting paid because there was no guaranteed money. It was real competitive. Whoever was the best got the most. And Vince perpetuated that kind of environment, and so did everybody else. I felt like, I always looked at it like, if you're the third leading rusher in the NFL, then you should be paid commensurate to your abilities.
Yeah.
If the leading rusher gets this much, and you're the third leading rusher, you should get paid this much. If you're in working for Vince in the WWF or WWE, and you're the second best performer, or you're having the second best matches, you're selling the second most merchandise, you're getting best crowd reaction and stuff, you should be paid commensurate to that. And so that kind of, I'm not saying it's the right way, but it bred a real cutthroat, competitive environment. I don't feel it was nasty, but it's a bunch of guys too, man. It's a bunch of jocks. It's a bunch of men who are on the road away from their families doing what they do. So our only release was in the ring, and I'm a huge Jerry Lee Lewis fan. So my thing was like, when Jerry Lee Lewis was on tour years ago, when the groups used to tour together, whoever had top 10 hits or top 40 hits. So Jerry Lee Lewis gets to New York City, Radio City Music Hall, but Chuck Berry has the #1 hit at that time. Now, Jerry Lee has like 4 hits in the top 10, but Chuck Berry has #1. So he gets to go on last. So Jerry Lee Lewis goes on before him. Terry goes crazy, sets his piano on fire, tears the house down, comes back and goes, follow that. So that's the kind of attitude that I tried to have and that I think the rest of the clique had. Was like, yeah, we heard about you. We heard you pretty good. Prove it. Because I'm going to go out there and do everything I can to make the people talk about Razor Ramon or Scott Hall when they leave the building. When they're walking their parking lot, I want them to go, man, that Scott Hall's a funny son of a gun. Man, that was a hell of a match. They don't even remember who won or lost. I just want them to go, man, that son of a bitch was good. I can't wait till he comes out and kid would jump. But before they could even get Bradshaw down the aisle, the people started going, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, because they wanted to see me beat that little prick's ass. So Kid came out, and he was working earlier in the match in like some 8-man, then coming out and working in like semi-main with me because he is a main eventer. And we were rocking the house because Kid has enough offense to get me in trouble. He'd get me in trouble, and people, right. I mean, we were tearing the house down, and I just knew that I believe that Kid and I should have been the angle, could have been the money. I could have worked with Goldust at another time or whatever. I mean, I don't know how to answer the story. I thought it was in bad taste. The business was different then. We weren't doing things that controversial. I rebelled against it. I said no to Vince, which hurt my career. I hurt I hurt Dustin's feelings, which I never meant to. And I still didn't get to work with kids. So it was like a lose-lose situation.
How did the whole jump to WCW come about, and what was Vince's reaction when you told him?
I remember going to Vince. I'd been working there a while, and I knew my position, and I had no problem with it. Because I remember when I first started, Vince said to me, when I first started doing the raise, Vince looked at me and said, "You're going to make a lot of money." I said, "Thank you." And I said, "You know, Vince, I don't have to have the most. I just want a lot." And he, so I'd been there a few years, and you know, my money was going up and up and up, and then it started to level off. But I'm thinking, no, wait a minute. I've been here a while, and I'm more of an asset now than I was. You know, I'm more over. My merchandise sells. People, you can leave me late every night, and guess what? They chant Razor. You know, and so I feel like I'm pretty valuable to the company. I'm a babyface who can do jobs and stay over. And so I asked for more money. I pulled Vince aside at TV one time and I asked him, "Hey Vince, can I talk to you about my money?" I said, I see, because I learned this from Curt too, how to go about it. So I said, "Vince, can I ask you something?" I said, "Is there something that I can improve on?" I said, "Do I need to improve on my ring work or something that I can do better on my interviews so that I can make more money like the guys who preceded me?" He went, "Oh, no, I'm absolutely, certainly pleased with your performance. Your interviews are fine." I said, "Well, then I just can't understand why my money isn't going up." So the next thing I know, I'm summoned to Stanford to the office. And I had to have a meeting, and they double team, you know, J.J. Dillon and Vince sit there. And I always thought they're real slick when you go in the office, like they phone the secretary, "Okay, Razor's on the way in." So they flip all the posters over so that, you know, flip the posters, Razor's on the way. So all the takers, you know, all the things that have Undertaker on, they flip them over to the Razor side. So, you know, you walk in the office and your posters are everywhere. And they brought the secretary, like right on cue, comes in and dumps a big thing of fan mail out. And Vince is going, "Look at the effect you have on people all over the world. You know, you touch their lives." And I said, "Vince, you know, I'm my kids' favorite wrestlers too, man. You know, I have 2 kids. I'm their favorite wrestler, and I'm never home." And Vince had a check on the table. I just glanced at it. He said, "That's yours. Take it. I want you to sign this contract. 3-year contract. Take it. That check's yours. It's yours today. Take it. 3-year contract." I said, "Vince, I can't work your schedule for 3 more years." It was 2 years then, too. I said, "I can't do 2. He said, "Tell me what you want. 1 year." I said, "I want to think about it." You know, I said, "Vince," I said, "how about," I said, "I ain't no mathematician, but I get my merchandise statements." And I said, "If we move the decimal point a little bit over," I said, "would the McMahon family really notice it?" Because the Hall family would notice. And he went, well, no, I'm not going to do that. You get the same thing that Taker and Diesel and Shawn get. You get the same thing, maybe in the future, but no.
Huh.
So I went, okay. I said, how about Japan? I want to work for you, but let me have 4 or 5 weeks a year. I can go to Japan and get their money. See, it won't be your money, Vince. It'll be their money. Or like, see, because to Vince, before he went public, if you made more money, he made less, the way he viewed it, because it was coming out of his pocket.
Right.
So I said, well, the fans' money, see, if they buy Razor merchandise, that's their money. Or let me go to Japan and get that Japanese money. No. As soon as I had you over there, heck, I need you here.
Huh.
So I went, okay. So Kid had been talking to Barry Bloom, this agent out in L.A., and he represented Jesse Ventura. He never handled wrestlers before. He handled Jesse after Jesse was done wrestling and making movies. So I was the first wrestler that he worked with. And Kid was talking to him, and Kid called me from his office, and because Kid was kind of feeling out WCW. And I said, they're going to pay you how much? I said, find out how bad they want me. Because Vince had you so busy working that you didn't even think anybody else wanted you. You got to go to Target and sign autographs for free, and then drive 200 miles to the town, hope you're not late because you're going to get yelled at.
Yeah.
You know, I was so busy working, I didn't even know that there was a demand for me. I just knew, God, I got to get to the town. Oh my God, I hope I'm not late. And so when I gave my notice, when I got the offer, I signed a letter of intent with WCW. And then I gave my Vince's contract was a 1-year contract that rolled over. Every year it rolled over if you didn't give a 90-day written notice. Not that you're leaving, but you don't want your contract to roll over. So I sent him a telegram, I sent him a letter, I said we covered all our bases. So then, as soon as I give my notice, I'm at some spot show in New Jersey, and Shawn and Kev aren't there because they're doing public relations somewhere in Europe, and their flight's late, and they're not there. So now Razor's going to work twice. Taker's there. It was a medium-sized town. You know, it's a pretty good house. But now Shawn and Kev aren't there. So now I'm going to work twice. I think Taker's going to work twice. We're going to try to save the town. Mm-hmm. Tony Gurria comes up to me and goes, they want you to call the doctor. That means call the piss test doctor, Di Pasquale up in Toronto. So I go call him. His wife says he's not home. I go back. I start putting my gear on. Gurria goes, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm putting my gear on, Tony. The doctor's not there. You know, he goes, well, they want you to leave the building. I said, what? I said, now, wait a minute. What about this chain of custody we have where this is all confidential? I said, you're telling me you know the results of the piss test before I do? I said, that sounds a little kabuki-ish. I said, how you know you ain't going to tell me I got diabetes or something? Yeah. I said, you're telling me I'm dirty on a piss test before the doctor tells me? And plus, see, the piss test was 6 weeks old. Like, gee, and because as soon as he told me that, I said, I guess they got my notice. And then Taker was sitting right next to me, and he said, God, why don't they just push the guy out the door? Because it wasn't like I wanted to leave, but I didn't want my contract to roll over. Right. I wanted to say, Vince, like, I'm really serious about us talking. Let's talk money, like, seriously. Because I'm not a mark. You know, I'm not Bret Hart about, I don't care, give me a belt, you pay me $400,000 a year. No. Beat me every night. I want a fucking million. Yeah. And I don't know. Wouldn't do it, so I took the money and went to WCW. Wow.
Now, when you came in there, did they already kind of have the idea floating around about an NWO type of gimmick, or did?
See, and what happened so cool, and it happened by accident, was Kev's contract expired a week after mine, just because that's the way he came in. It wasn't structured that way or anything. That's just the way it happened. So, which made it so cool for the angle down there. Yeah. Because I finished for Vince on a Sunday night in Madison Square Garden, and I was on Nitro the next day. And it was Larry Zbyszko's idea to have me come through the audience and interrupt a match that's in progress. Wow. And not hit the ring and beat the guys up. Just walk in and grab the mic like you would if, you know, the boys know me. They ain't going to beat me up. They're not supposed to. They're having a match. I just grab the mic and go, hey, and I start talking. And they just stopped wrestling. And people were, what? And it was so cool, and it was all Zbyszko's idea, because Bischoff would have had me walk down the aisle. I came through the crowd, talked, did what Eric told me to do. Later, I told him I had a surprise for him next week. That's when Kev came. And the whole reason it worked was because people thought Vince sent us down there. People thought we still worked for Vince. That's why it worked.
Wow. Now, was Hogan originally going to be a part of the group, or how did that all come about?
Well, in Hulk's contract, he has creative control over his character. That means he doesn't have to do anything that he doesn't want to do, which is a cool thing to have. I didn't have it, but Hulk had it, and he deserved it. So we're at the Bash at the Beach in Daytona, and the show has already started. The pay-per-view's already started. Hulk is flying on a private jet from Cali to Daytona. So he's in the air. We can't get contact with him on the phone. We're not sure that he's going to do it because he's invested a lot of years into being a hero, being a good guy. We're not sure he wants to be a villain. He may not want to. But when he gets there, having seen the success that Kev and I are having coming in, and Hulk's smart. And his career as a babyface was starting to decline a little bit then. And he recognized it, and he was smart enough to go, the only thing to do is turn. And it was the perfect time. And plus, see, we were New York guys, me and Kev. And we just, as far as the people knew, we worked for Vince.
Yeah.
And there's no more identifiable New York guy than Hulk. So it was like, holy fuck. Vince sent those guys. We know Hulk and Vince from way back. Those fuckers are going to take over Atlanta. That was the storyline. And it was Eric's idea. And Hulk agreed to do it. And it was Kev's finish that we did that night. And it worked. And man, it was a happy feeling because I remember the night before. I remember that Sunday that I was in the Garden. I put Hunter over in the middle, Triple H over in the middle with a finish that Pat Patterson gave us that was so sweet. And I beat him like a job guy. Like I went out in the ring, did my cha-cha, took my stuff off. He jumped me from behind, knocked me to the floor, choked me with stuff in the aisleway. And people were thinking, and people in the aisleways who, the fans in the Garden are half smart. Like when I started to walk out, half of them were going, please don't go. Please don't go. And I'm laying in the aisleway and he's choking me with a cord and stuff. And people are going, look how they treat you, Razor, after everything you've done, man. Look how they treat you. Go to Atlanta, take the money, man. We don't blame you. Fans in the Iowa, because in the Garden, the same people sit in the same seats every time.
Wow.
And stuff. It's a really hip, sophisticated audience. So, and the thing is, though, Patterson tells me then, because a lot of people are going, well, see, Razor, man, he ain't doing no job in the Garden. No way, because people don't do that. Not when you're going for millions of dollars to the rival company. Why would you do a job? That's unheard of. No one does that. So, but I want to do business because I want to work for Vince again someday, and I wanted the people in the Garden to get their money's worth. So, what we did was Pat said, "You lay there," and so then I'm laying there and just dead in the aisleway. Triple H gets on the phone, and he's still doing the rich guy thing and the bin,
right. And
he goes, "Oh, Razor Ramon, go off wherever it is you're going. We don't need you here anyway." And all of a sudden they start going, Razor, Razor. And I get up and pull that shit off and hit the ring and start bouncing him around like a job guy. I mean, he's feeding me, bam, 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 bam. I hit him with a sack of shit. I give him the career ender, fucking, that's it. And people are going, he's not leaving. He's not leaving. Pat, this was Pat's finish. I pick him up like this for my finish. Baby Earl, the referee, walks around behind. I pick him up like this. Triple H's feet hit Baby Earl in the head. He goes down. I hit him with my finish. And Vince's rings are big enough that Baby Earl goes to this corner, and I drop Triple H in the far corner where I can cover him. And it's like, come on. I turn around, walk over, get up, Earl, kick him in the ass, turn back around, boom, pedigree, 1, 2, 3. And it was and I did a job, and it was one of the best matches of my career.
Wow.
And so I lay there forever till it's over. Then I stand up, and look at the people, and they start going, you sold out. You sold out. You sold out. I remember, too, when I was walking to the ring and they're going, please don't go, I stopped midway in the aisle. And Vince always stands outside the curtain in the Garden. I turned around and I went like this. I pointed at Vince and I panted him on. You tell him, give me the money, I'll stay right here. Because I would have. If he'd have come to me and said, Rays, I'll match their offer. I want you to stay here. I'd have stayed. And so after the match, too, I did the thing. They're going, you sold out. You sold out. I'm looking around going, hey. And I used to always do this. I picked up the mic and I went, say goodbye. to the bad guy. And everybody in the garden said it with me. It was one of the most magic moments of my career. I would say, because they always was saying, say hello. I said, say goodbye to the bad guy. I was like, thank you. And then later, Kev put Shawn over to Cage. And it was Shawn's idea for me to come out and Hunter to come out, and that turned into a big scandal, But, it was a magic night. And then followed by a magic night the next night. I mean, my career was like, I was in wrestling heaven, man.
Yeah. What happened between you and Jerry Sags in WCW in a matchup?
Well, one of the things that happened that started a lot of the grief was Kev and I got paid real well when we came in. And a lot of guys who were there took pay cuts. Now, not because of us, and we didn't know anything about it. But some guys were making like $350 grand a year, and they came to us, and they weren't working. Back then, they didn't even run house shows because they couldn't draw. And so they said, we can't give you $350, but we'll give you $300. So a lot of guys agreed to it. Apparently, the Nasty Boys agreed to take a pay cut. And when they bitched about it, the way I heard it was Terry Taylor said, well, Hall and Nash getting all the money. So right away, we got some heat.
Right.
And we get heat anyway. It's just, I get heat anyway. I don't care, I like it, But so we're heat seeking because we're obnoxiously happy. We're walking around smiling and laughing because we get paid and we don't care who knows it. And so what happened was, and I've known them forever. I knew them when they broke in Brad Reagan's camp in Minneapolis, and I consider them good friends, and I still do. But what happened was, we were told to hit the ring. We're somewhere, and they're wrestling some Mexican wrestlers, and me and Kev are supposed to hit the ring and lay them out with chairs. So I always go first because I'm faster than Kev. So I slide in with the chair. I straddle one of the Mexican guys who's down, and I waffle Sags with the chair. And when I swing a chair, I swing it. To me, it's like, don't ask me to hit you with a gimmick because I'm going to hit you. I'd rather not do it or I'm going to do it, and I'll take it the same way.
Right.
But I don't do the I send it. So I hit him. I didn't know that I'd potatoed him. He rolled out of the ring, and he had his back like this, and I thought he was feeding me. I almost hit him again from inside the ring to the floor because I thought he wanted another one. Because before we went out, Nas went, make sure you lay it in. Lay it in. So what happened was, now he comes back, and he's got a big goose egg on his head. And he's like turning the corner, and I'm sitting there talking to Kev, and I said, oh, Kev, man, I said, I potatoed Sags, man. I said, I am so happy, because I guess he was delirious, and I thought he was feeding me for a second one, but I didn't do it. And I said, man, I am so happy I didn't hit him again. I said, I almost hit him again. I was kind of doing a nervous laugh. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, Sags turned the corner with a big goose egg, and he sees me and Kev going, and he's thinking, they're taking my money. Now they're taking liberties with me. They got potatoed me on purpose, and he thinks it's funny. This is the way I perceived it. He perceived it because I've known him a long time. And so then, now we're in some other town. We're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, something like that. And it's Ming and Barbarian, Nasty Boys, and me and Kev, in like one of those cluster 6-man, 3 tag team deals. Yeah. And the finish is Kid, who'd wrestled earlier, is supposed to run down, throw us a gimmick. We're supposed to knock everybody out and keep the belts. Now, Kid got injured, so he doesn't come down. So now it's time to go home, and there's no Kid. So we're going, what is going on? Now it's really getting out of control. So the Nasty Boys start throwing furniture in the ring. So they throw, Sags goes stomping down the steps, throws a plastic chair in the ring, comes stomping back down the steps. Now I pick up the chair. You threw it in the ring, you dummy. Yeah. So I pick it up. He comes walking in, looks right at me. I got the chair like this, and I did like Sabu does, like Kevin Sullivan does. It's a plastic chair. He's looking right at me. I think he's paying attention. So I push the chair at him like that, and it hits him, and it rattles, and people go, ooh. By this time now, Ming is hitting me, because we're the heels, and the other 2 teams are like babyface. So Ming's hitting me with working shots, and Sags is drilling me with live rounds. But see, he's stiff anyway, so I don't really think anything of it. He's like, bam, I'm going, whoa. And then Ming's hitting me with working thing, and then bam, I'm going, man, wow. Finally, I look at him, and I realize he's raging. He's mad. He's seriously mad. So I just pushed him away, like, what's your problem? He knocked my tooth out.
Did he really?
I lost a tooth, man. He knocked it out into the 5th row. And it punctured my cheek, and your mouth is so filled with bacteria that my face was like this, and instantly. So I turned back around, now blah, 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 it's over. They finally get them out of the ring. I'm standing there, me and Kev got the straps, we're standing there, I turn around to Kev, and I go, Kev, is my face all messed up? He goes, what the F? And I said, it sags, man. And Kev goes, marches back in the locker, picks up Sting's baseball bat, and he goes, say the word, and he's dead. And I said, Kev, he thinks he's right, man. He thinks he's right. Because he thought that I was taking liberties with him again. Because Kev was going to kill him. Kev walked in there and just swung the baseball bat right above his head. And said, you want to find out who's got stroke around here, you mother effers? And so I go to the hotel. We're all going to go out and party in Baton Rouge that night because this is a sweet little party town. All the Mexican boys, Rey Mysterio and Hoovy and Conan, they all come to my room with Kev. And I'm sitting there with this, my face real sore, and I can't laugh because it hurts. And they all go, come on, let's go out. I'm going, screw you, I ain't going anywhere like this, So Bischoff calls my room that night, and he goes, hey, God, I heard what happened, oh my God. He goes, he's fired. I'll fire him instantly. I said, man, don't fire him. I've known him 20 years. I said, he's got kids. I said, I don't want to work with him anymore. But I said, don't fire him. And, I think what happened was he ended up sitting at home for a long time, and he got paid. Yeah. And I've seen him since then, and it was just something that happened, It wasn't, I didn't intend for that to happen to him, and he intended to hurt me, which is wrong. The way I look at it is, if you had a problem with me, you should have fought me in the locker room. Don't hit me with live rounds in the ring when I'm giving you my body. I'm leaning my face out there, and he's hitting me with everything he has. And when you're supposed to be that mad, like you can lift a car off a baby and stuff, one thing I'm proud of, this dude's hitting me with everything he got, and he can't even knock me out. But that's what happened.
Did Roddy Piper try and go after you guys and try and fight you guys after a match one night?
No.
No? Because there was a story that Piper went in the locker room and had words with you guys. And
the first time I remember Piper was right before Christmas one year. We were in Macon, Georgia doing a nitro, and we fed Piper all night long. Even when we went off the air, me and Kid just kept feeding him until he blew up. And then we'd roll back out, and I looked at the Kid. I said, you want to do it some more? And we went, well, it is Roddy Piper. We went back in and just bing, 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 just making him because it was like, wow, it's Roddy Piper. Yeah. The only heat I remember having with Piper was Hulk saw me and Kev doing jobs for everybody all the time and it not hurting us. Like we'd do jobs for guys, then we'd lie about it. We go, I beat his ass. And people go, no, you didn't, you lost, because I learned that from Kevin Sullivan. He would lose, and then he'd say, no, I beat him. And I'd be sitting at home like a mark going, no, you didn't. So that's what I learned is heels lie. Like you lose, put the guy over, then lie about it. So Hulk saw us doing that. So we talked Hulk, who doesn't do jobs, into letting Piper beat him at Starrcade in Nashville with a sleeper. So Hulk put Piper over. He was so excited when we got in the limo that night, go back to the hotel, that he couldn't stop. He was so excited, it made me feel great to see Hulk that happy. Yeah. Because he did a job and he was happy, And we were going, yeah, see, isn't it fun? It doesn't even matter, man. Like, we're still the shit. We lost. Did you hear the people? Like, we put Piper over, man. Did you hear the people? Because if we didn't put him over, what are you going to do, a DQ or something? No, man. We're doing a whole Pat Patterson, Curt Hennig click idea. You're going to make the guy make him, man. He's going to beat you, take his finish. Not some schoolboy or small package, but no, man, let him beat you with his finish. So the only friction I had was when it came time for Piper to put Savage over in San Francisco at Super Brawl one time, they had to do he wouldn't take the elbow drop. He had to get hit with the tape, the brass tape knuckles. And I remember me and Hulk were standing in the hotel bar, and Piper and Bischoff were standing at another little table, and I was buzzing and I was pissed off, and I fucked with Piper all night. I said, hey, Piper, I said, what's that tape do, man? Does it give you a rash or something? I said, you're too fucking much. I said, Hulk puts you over and you won't put Savage over? I said, I used to respect you. I think you're a jabroni. I said, I can't believe you, man. What is it, real? What, are we too close to Portland? I just went on and on and on. And the one thing I remember was Bischoff looking at me going, stop it, stop it. and Hogan told me later, he goes, wow, brother, no one's ever stuck up for me before. You know, because Hulk was always the man, so no one was ever watching his back, you know.
Yeah.
I said, you know, Hulk does a job for you. You won't do a job for Savage? I said, I don't get it, man. I said, what makes you so special? You know, I just totally, I don't know. I remember going into that angle, they did a thing where Piper stayed in Alcatraz for a week because the pay-per-view was in San Francisco at the Cow Palace. And I said, wow, you must have been real popular at Alcatraz. I said, bet you got a lot of candy bars and cigarettes, you queer. Yeah, I really had a fun. That's the only thing I can remember about Roddy being pissed off at. But that blew over because he knew he was wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't remember him ever coming after us, because if he'd come after us, he'd got his ass kicked.
Do you think that the Horsemen took it too seriously when they got all upset about the skit you did?
Well, yes, particularly Arn, because Arn got real mad. He said, "Oh, my wife told me you guys made me look like Otis the Town Drunk." Okay, the thing is, Kev got that cooler that he used for the prop out of Arn's rental car. He had Pee Wee, the referee, who travels with Arn and Flair and their drinking buddy, get it out of the car. Arn is bitching in the hotel lobby bar, and I respect Arn, but this is the truth. He's in the bar bitching about it with a beer in each hand, because that's how we do it. Because by the time you get to the hotel bar after the show, it's going to close. So you got to order. You know, she can't bring you beers fast enough, so you order two at a time. Because you know, by the time she walks back, you've already pounded that one. You know, so I just thought it's a skit, man. It's a parody. It's a joke. Like what it. I don't know. But see, then again, maybe my feelings would have got hurt. I kind of doubt it. I mean, Bischoff had me. He said, I got an idea. What we're going to do is you're going to be drunk on TV, you know, because, you know, it was my personal life. So we're going to do it on TV. I said, Eric, I think it's in poor taste, but you're the boss, you know.
Does it bother you that so many people know that your struggles are so public that, you know, people print them in newsletters? You know, it's acknowledged on television, where some other guys, you never know.
I never really was keeping it a secret myself. I thought it was a bad idea for Eric to do it as part of an angle, and the higher ups in Turner made him stop after a certain amount of time. It doesn't. You know, I'm proud of my behavior, but I'm not. You know, I mean, I'm ashamed of some of the things I've done. I'm ashamed that I hurt some people's feelings who didn't need their feelings hurt. But, you know, I try to look at something positive out of it. And if maybe there's one kid out there who goes, wow, man, you know, maybe Scott Hall, you know, and he said, man, when he did the shoot interview of Feinstein video, man, he said, you know, drinking ain't the answer. You know, maybe drinking and drugs, you know, I ain't gonna lie to you, it's fun, but you know, it ain't the answer. So I don't know. I mean, I never was really trying to keep it a secret. I mean, plus, see, you know, I did this thing all these years later. I don't have a computer. I don't read the dirt sheets. I don't really care what people think. I care what the fans who pay money. I care what they think by their cheering or booing. I care what the people who pay me think. I care what people say to me when they interact with me in the grocery store or the airport. I don't care what a bunch of dudes sitting around who can't get laid think, and they're writing, we had a 2-star match. You know, I don't care what a bunch of internet marks think about me.
Yeah. Did it become frustrating to you, especially since it was your baby, when the NWO kept expanding and everybody was in the NWO?
Yes and no. See, part of the problem was Hulk only made TV and pay-per-views. Now, Kevin and I made every house show and TVs and pay-per-views. And we were under the impression that the NWO was going to be separate and that we were going to get the Saturday show. They used to have a Saturday show on TBS. We thought we were going to get the Saturday show, and that was going to be NWO, and that me and Kevin were going to get to run it and with Hulk and, you know, and learn some of that behind-the-scenes stuff and really make it cool, do it black and white. Like, we used to do empty arena videos and crazy stuff. And we wanted to, because our idea was to make the fans decide, do you like the NWO or do you like WCW? instead of going, do you like WCW, do you like WWF? We were going to try to make the fans choose between really one brand, you know, two brands, but one company. But really, part of that was our fault, because the one thing about having more dudes in the NWO is that means we didn't have to make every town. You know, we didn't have to go to Little Rock and Sioux Falls and all that. We just went to the big towns and let the other dudes go to the other towns. But it did water it down.
Do you think that WCW, whoever was booking at the time, mishandled Bret when he came into WCW?
I was just talking to somebody about that just yesterday. Actually, see, with all due respect to Bret, his strong suit is his wrestling. He's not that good on the stick. He's not that good on the microphone. And everything we did was live TV. See, when he worked for Vince, a lot of his stuff was taped interviews where they could do several takes and get it the way they wanted it, or they could feed lines to him or whatever. See, a lot of stuff we did was live, and some of the guys were real good on the stick. And if you weren't, too bad for you, we'd bury you, because it's a cutthroat thing, and if you don't remember, we'll remind you. So Bret came into already a well-oiled machine, and he kind of didn't fit. See, the thing is too, Bret was made an offer a year earlier to come in, and he didn't want it. And then he came in later, and he didn't have the impact that he would have had he come earlier. And he just didn't fit. I think the thing that hurt him the most was that his microphone skills. You know, because we'd almost turned Nitro into comedy. I mean, the NWO, we barely wrestled. We'd open the show with some comedy, and then we'd do some run-ins, and then usually me or Kev or somebody would wrestle at the end of the night. But I don't know. I don't think anybody mishandled Bret. I don't think you can blame the management for somebody not getting over. I mean, Bret's been around a long time. He should know how to get over. You can't blame Bischoff because Bret didn't get over.
Do you think they pulled the plug on Bischoff too quick when they replaced him with Russo and Ferrara?
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Russo?
No comment.
Okay.
I think he's a nice guy, a smart guy, and everything. I think that he was a small cog in a big machine when he was successful with Vince. I don't know how he's doing at TNA or anything, because I don't really follow that. He's a nice person. You know, I've never really done a lot of business with him.
Yeah. How did it come out? How did it come about when you were finally released or you left WCW?
I think it was the fateful German trip. I was dating a girl, Emily Sherman. Her uncle, Brad Siegel, is the president of TNT. And I knew Brad and his family and stuff. And Emily's a real sweetheart, a real pretty girl. We were dating, and she was part of the international thing. So we were in Germany, and I was at the bar, and I went to high school in Germany, and I traveled to Germany a lot for Vince, and you know, I had a lot of German fans, a lot of German girlfriends. And this girl that I knew was in the bar talking to me, and Emily was there talking to me. And Emily and I had kind of decided that we were not going to see each other anymore or whatever. And so I was talking to this other girl, and the girl wanted to give me a gift. And I have it at home. She made a doll of me, like out of a sock puppet like thing. It was kind of cool. I still have it. Cool. Anyway, this chick wanted to give it to me, but she wanted to give it to me in front of everybody in the bar. She was embarrassed. So we went up to my room, and Emily used her authority as a WCW representative to get a key to my room and come in my room unauthorized. So then she came in. I'm there with the girl. Nothing's going on. The girl's handing me a gift, but Emily blows up, and a food fight ensues, and I'm drunk, and so by the time, and we're up all night. Now we got to go to the airport and fly out, and now Emily and I are still bickering and stuff in the airport. And you know, when you're on an international flight, you can't be real loud and stuff in the airport, because in Germany, the guys walk around with machine guns in the airport, you know, security. So there's bickering and loud talk going on between Emily and I. And so they come to me and say, you know, you can't come on a plane, because it's, you know, I'm going, well, just leave me alone, please, Emily, leave me alone, okay, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure a lot of it, you know, I'm not saying it's her fault. I've certainly had my share of it, but a big argument ensued. They wouldn't let me on the plane. So I just went back to the hotel, and flew home the next day or whatever. But that was the start of the end for me at WCW. Just
Now, one time when you were gone, I don't know how closely you followed it, but they teased that you were coming back, and they did a couple angles, and then Goldberg went on TV and took what was supposed to be a contract with your name on it and ripped it up. Were there plans for you to come back, or?
I don't know. I don't remember hearing anything about Goldberg doing something like that. I know Goldberg didn't like me. I don't understand why. I helped him a lot. His first road trip, I helped. I said, ride with me. I get free cars. I get free rooms. And he wasn't anybody then. He was just starting out. But and I introduced him to Barry Bloom, who ended up, helping him get a really lucrative contract. But I don't remember anything about that. Like when I barely watched the show, even when I was on it.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of stuff going on outside of wrestling, and wrestling was a release for me. Like I enjoyed performing when I was there in the ring and stuff like that. But I had other distractions outside of it, so I really didn't even follow what was going on, especially if it wasn't me or my buddies. Like I didn't really follow what Goldberg did, so I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Did you always have a plan kind of in the back of your head that once you got stuff situated, you would go back to WCW?
I don't know. I never went back there, did I?
No.
No. I've been really blessed that, I came from humble beginnings and I was able to save my money, and then, I saved the money from Razor, and then, WCW was really good to me, and I saved money there, and I made some investments that, not all good. I got some property, I had good advice, and my goal was to just retire early and sit at home and just do nothing. And I did that for a long time, and just recently, it's been just 5-6 weeks ago, I realized that the sit at home thing is not good for me. It's too much time in my hands. I get in trouble. I get bored. I do stupid things. So I just started recently wrestling again in Puerto Rico, and I'm wrestling for the WWC down there, World Wrestling Council, Carlos Colon's company, who I worked for years and years ago, and I'm their champion now, and working down there, a couple times a month, and really enjoying it, getting back in shape a little bit. And, I worked there. This was at this autograph thing here this past weekend, and wrestled for the Clown Posse the other day, and going to do some business with them. And my goal is to get back in shape, and I'd like to go to Japan and then decide if I want to work in the U.S. or not, because I believe that I have another run left. I don't believe you can burn bridges. I know that despite what my personal flaws or defects may have been in the wrestling business, I still know that as far as my work was concerned, there was never a problem with it. My behavior outside the ring sometimes was certainly unacceptable, but my work was always, what it was supposed to be. So I believe that I could work wherever I want, as long as I, act like a gentleman. So that's where I'm at now, man. Stay tuned.
Now you came back to the WWE, with Kevin and Hulk as the NWO. How did that whole thing come about? Who kind of pitched that?
Kev went to Connecticut and visited with Vince, and that's the way Kev does business. And of course, Vince and Hulk have had a long relationship. And one time I'm sitting at home, my phone rings, caller ID says Stamford, Connecticut. So I pick it up, and he goes, "Ha, Mr. Mom, how you doing?" So I said, who does such a good Vince impersonation? He goes, hey, bad guy, hey, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good, Vince. How are you? Great. Well, I'll come to the point. I've been talking to Big Kev, and he's talking about coming back to work. I said, that's great, Vince. I said, Kev will do great for you, man. He's a big star. You'll make a lot of money with Kev. Well, I'm talking to the Hulkster too. I said, well, Hulk's track record's proven. He's a gold mine, man. I said, yeah, it sounds good for them. That sounds great. And he went, well, what about you, big guy? Hey, we need you there. And I said, well, Vince, I'm raising my kids by myself, and I don't know, man. He goes, well, don't you think we can work something out? I said, well, if we both want to, I know we can. So, we worked out a structured deal that I was only supposed to work 10 days a month. Of course, the first month I worked 22 days, which was a problem. But, I thought, well, I'll do this because I want, it's all going to smooth out. It's going to be fine. But Hulk Hulk, Kevin, and I talked before we went there, and we said, do you really think Vince is going to push something that he didn't create? Do you think Vince is going to push the NWO? Because if he does, that's admitting Eric Bischoff is smarter than him, and he's not going to admit that. And we were right. He could have made tons. He made money with it. He could have made tons of money with it, but he chose not to. And he killed it off at the first pay-per-view. So, and I wasn't having fun, and I had problem. I didn't have anyone to stay with my children, and I wasn't having fun. I wasn't having good matches, and I cracked and just self-destructed. I just talked to Ross. Ross said, well, we need to talk about what's going on. I said, how about, I'm done. How about, Ross said, we need to talk about, what's going on. I said, how about I'm done yesterday and I can be in Japan tomorrow if I want. He said, well, is that the way you want? I said, yeah, let's just end it like this before it gets worse. Because I was ready to crack.
When the three of you guys appeared on TV together for the first time at the pay-per-view and you did the promo, did you and Kevin kind of realize that it wasn't going to work with Hogan as a heel because he was so over as a baby face?
Which time? When we went to New York? Back from
Yeah,
you mean?
yeah.
Yeah, it was different then because, well, it was cool because had it been done the way that we would have dreamed it had been done, Vince does stuff way better. Vince could have made the NWO even bigger, but he chose not to. But it just, like the stuff we did where like when we got to the Rock in Chicago, we beat him up, then we smashed the ambulance stuff. That's the way Vince does stuff, like Hollywood. And we were all going, whoa, this is cool. That's about the last time we did anything. Yeah. We did a few things leading into the pay-per-view. We were told weeks in advance, Hulk was going to put Rock over, I was going to beat Austin. Then a day or two before the pay-per-view in Toronto, Vince calls me in for a meeting, change the finish. So I remember going, what? Yeah, okay, no problem. In other words, why did you call me? You're wasting my time.
Yeah.
You don't want to do business? In other words, you're a mark. I don't know. I felt that I'd been lied to, and I just wanted it out of there. I was happy I even made it to WrestleMania. Because I told him, I called Vince one time and said, maybe you better put Kev in the ring with Austin and let me stand on the outside. Because I ain't having very good matches with him. It was an unhappy experience.
Why do you think the chemistry wasn't there between you and Austin?
It got better. It got a little better. It just, I don't know. It's just like, I didn't have my best matches with Steve, and I'm sure Steve didn't have his best matches with me. Some people you click with, some people you just don't click with. I'm not blaming Steve at all. He's a super talented guy, super interview. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen Kev work with him and me on the outside and seen what they could have done. But I thought the match we had at Mania was okay, and it was. I laid it out. I called Vince and said, "Send me tapes of Austin. Let me see how he works in big shows, because he starts with his comeback." And I don't know. This is what it was. I don't mean to knock Steve Austin at all. He's a major superstar in our business. I enjoy doing business with him. I was handsomely paid for it. It just, like I said, I didn't have my best match with Steve. And I'm sure Steve would tell you he didn't have his best match with me.
Yeah.
Personally, he treated me like gold.
How about TNA? You did some business with them early on.
Yeah, I was on their first show.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you were like the big deal on the first show too.
Well, I'm so surprised.
I'm surprised that it was such a short run.
I am a big deal. Well, I only signed I think a 3 appearance deal or whatever. Just kept that rolling over an event that I want to be there, because I didn't know if it was going to be JoJo or good, so you don't want to be locked into something,
Yeah. When Hunter and Shawn brought DX back the last time around, there were all kinds of rumors that you and Sean Waltman were going to go and do a feud with them. Was there any truth to that?
Well, it was going to be Kev too. I mean, to me, it's what the people wanted. There's nobody could have matched up with DX. If people want to do business and make money, Of course, that era is all the window of opportunity passed, at least for now.
Yeah.
You know, or for then. They say it couldn't happen in WrestleMania coming up in my hometown. But, you know, because too, it's the click. Then you'd have some guys who all think the same. And to me, Kid's the wild card because he was the only person who was in DX and NWO. So you'd have me and Kev versus, you'd have NWO versus DX, and Kid is the wild card. Don't know which side he's going to go on. To me, that'd be some interesting stuff. And besides it being a cool angle, then we're going to deliver because the match is going to be out of this world. Because you're going to have four guys who already wrestled each other a million times, and we're going to rock it. And it could have been magic, but it didn't happen.
Wow. What are your thoughts on you know, what happened recently? You know, the tragedy, you know, involving Chris Benoit and the media coverage that wrestling's been getting over the last month or so.
I mean, nobody knows what happened with Chris and Nancy and Daniel. It's it's a tragedy, and I knew Chris a long time. I knew Nancy too. Excuse me. I just think that because this guy from HBO Sports called me, Real Sports is Brian Gumbo, the producer, called me and asked me, since the thing happened with Chris, if I wanted to comment on, wrestling and drugs and stuff. And excuse me. I just thought that, so my position is, no one ever made me take drugs. No one ever made me drink. I chose to. It's not Vince's fault what happened with Chris. It's not Vince's fault what happened with all these guys who've died. I think it's ridiculous for the media to attack wrestling promoters for what the independent contractors do. What I told the guys at HBO, and some guy from Inside Edition asked me yesterday, would I contact him and talk about it? My position is, why don't you focus on all the wrestlers who have been in the industry, had their dreams come true, got money in the bank, got houses, got families. Because way more guys have wrestled and are alive than have wrestled and are dead. But the focus is on the death. And I think it's kind of silly. It's like, you heard about that crazy astronaut chick who drove, drove from Texas to Orlando in a diaper and all that. Does that mean it's NASA's fault that she's crazy? No. Is it the NFL's fault that Pac-Man got in trouble or that Michael Vick got in trouble? Is it the NFL's fault? No. So how can it be Vince's fault that guys make personal choices? I think it's ridiculous,
A lot of guys have put books out over the last couple of years, and I mean, with all the stories you have, I mean, I still have, half of, half the questions I didn't even get to. Is a book something you've ever thought about doing?
My little brother's always on me about writing a book, and I tell him I'm gonna, man, as soon as I can figure out that happy end.
Wow. You've been doing some conventions lately, and you've had a chance to meet some of your fans, and it's great for the fans to get real up close and personal to, one of the biggest stars, in the history of the business. Do you like doing these conventions and that kind of thing?
You said like I've been doing them. I think this one this weekend was like the third autograph thing I've ever done in 23 years.
Oh, wow.
I only did it because, Kev and Kid were going to be there. And I feel a little bit weird charging people for autographs, but I mean, it was a big structured thing, so it didn't feel so weird, but I didn't like the way it was handled. I thought the fans got ripped off, but I do like interacting with the fans, and it's really cool to meet people who are like you guys, who understand the business and talk about it like a profession or what you do, like you're doing your skill, and if your role in this particular night is to put a guy over, even though he may have less ability than you, your job is to make him look good. Or your job is to be the hero, or whatever your role is, and you do it, and you know, you try to be funny on the microphone or mean on the microphone or be entertaining and like display your ability or your lack of ability. You know, that's your job, and I think that's cool. You know, and I like, you know, I like interacting with the fans and hearing what they have to say, because I'd rather hear it from people who are fans than, like I said earlier, from a bunch of dudes who don't even go to the matches, but sit at home and write letters and criticize guys. And then again, it makes me think of something Elvis said years ago, like, you know, there's critics and that's their job, they criticize. So, you know, I guess as long as they talk about you, spell your name right.
Wow. In closing, is there, you know, we always ask the guys if there's anything they want to say to their fans.
Gosh, I just like to say, you know, anybody who sees this, you know, thanks for, you know, supporting Razor or Scott Hall for all these years, and you know, it's been a roller coaster ride, and I just don't think the ride's over. Get it together, and stay tuned, because I think I got one more run.
TitleMatchNetwork.com